Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Harry Potter script readings. This week we're on year 5. We're on Order of the Phoenix. Again, my name is Curtis. I'll be your host. I'll also be playing the roles of Severus Snape, Filch, Dean Thomas, and Kingsley Shacklebolt. We have Travis as our Harry Potter. We have Jessica as Ron, Fred, George Weasley, Rita Skeeter, and Gilderoy Lockhart. We have Jade as Hermione. We got Colby as our Dumbledore, and our scene description tonight as McGonagal and Luna Lovegood. We got Anne as Hagrid and Creature. We got Hunter as Delord, the Nasty Dolores Umbridge and Bellatrix Lestrange. We got Marla as Voldemort and Cornelius Fudge. We got Andy as Lupin. We got Rudy as Lucius Malfoy and Vernon Dursley. We got Eric as Draco Malfoy and Sirius Black. We got Logan as Ginny Weasley, Lavender Brown, and other characters. We got Corey as Arthur Weasley, Mad-Eye Moody, and Dobby. We got Jeremy as Mrs. Dursley, Molly Weasley. We have Molly, who will also be playing Professor Trelawney, as Cho Chang and Lily Potter. We got Kenzie, and as Nymphadora Tonks and other characters, we got Karina. All right, so Colby, whenever you're ready, take us away.
Exterior, little winging, night. It is sunset. We drift through the clouds, approaching number 4 Privet Drive. We sail over the roof of number 4 and continue on past it into the street. We drift down into an abandoned playground. A lone figure sits on the only unbroken swing. It is Harry Potter. He appears deep in thought. Had he been watching more carefully, he would have seen the old Mrs. Fig watching him from her front porch. Mrs. Fig adjusts her porch chair in order to watch Harry better. The sound of harsh laughter reaches Harry's ears. He looks up. Dudley and his gang of followers are walking down the street, telling crude jokes and laughing. They ignore Harry and continue on out of sight. Harry gets to his feet and follows them. Exterior, street, night. Harry rounds the corner only to find himself surrounded by Dudley's gang.
Oh, it's you.
What should we do with him, Big D?
Big D, cool name, but to me you'll always be Inky Dinky Ups.
Shut up.
One of Dudley's gang steps in as if to punch Harry. Harry glares at him. The gang member pauses, then steps back again.
Ooh, tough guy. Not so tough in your bed, are you?
What?
Mrs. Fig stands up and goes to the edge of a porch.
You boys go home now, or I'll be calling your parents.
They pause and edge away from Harry.
I heard you talking in your sleep last night, crying. No, don't kill Cedric, don't kill Cedric. Dad, help me, he's going to kill me, boo-hoo.
Dudley's gang laughs.
Shut up, Dudley, I'm warning you.
Why should I?
Harry whips out his wand and points it at Dudley.
Because if you don't, I'll turn you into the idiot pig you are.
Dudley's gang laughs at Harry. Dudley, on the other hand, is terrified.
Don't point that thing at me.
Not so brave now, are you, Duddykins? Now tell your little friends to go away.
Dudley quivers, then finally complies.
Go home.
What?
Get out of here.
Suddenly nervous, they turn and edge away, soon vanishing into the night. Harry tightened his grip on his wand, glaring 14 years of hatred and rage at Dudley.
Don't you ever speak about that again, you understand?
Don't point that thing at me.
I said, do you understand?
Suddenly, a cold wind blows through the street, causing everyone to shiver. Harry exhales and his breath is tinged with frost. The street lights flicker, die, and frost over. Dudley is turning in a circle, terrified.
What's happening?
Quiet!
Stars go out, plunging them into darkness. Dudley yells in fear. Harry turns to the end of the street, gliding as smooth as death over the street, tattered robes drifting in the wind, comes a Dementor.
Dudley, run!
He turns, grabs his cousin by the arm, and drags him down an alleyway. Beyond the mouth of the alleyway is the next street and number 4, Privet Drive.
Come on!
They break into a run. A Dementor drifts into the alleyway in front of them. Skidding to a stop, Harry turns around to find the other Dementor cutting off their way back. Harry spots a fire escape ladder leading onto the roof of the house. He taps Dudley on the back and starts to point to it. when Dudley turns and punches Harry in the jaw. Dazed, Harry stumbles backwards and falls to his back. His glasses slide from his face. His wand clatters away from him. Crying, Dudley runs away from Harry, towards the first Dementor.
Dudley, no!
Harry feels the ground for his glasses, but cannot find them. His hands scrabble on the ground in desperation.
Lumos.
3 feet away from him, his wand lights up. Harry snatches it up and turns. The Dementor closes the distance to Harry swiftly and is suddenly right before him. Harry raises his wand.
Expecto Patronum.
A wisp of misty light protrudes from the tip of his wand, but not enough. Harry stiffens and gasps. The Dementor closes in for the kill.
To death, Harry.
Harry falls onto his back and the Dementor closes the distance. Dudley screams in the black. Harry glances at him. Dudley is on his back, hands pulled apart by the other Dementor, and the great cloaked head lowering to deliver the kiss. Harry raises his wand in desperation.
Expecto Patronum.
There is a blinding explosion of light as Harry's Patronus bursts forth, blasting the Dementor backwards and away. The light intensifies, pulsating from Harry's wand, expanding to fill the alley with wave after pulsing wave of pure light. The Dementors flee. The stars and street lamps flicker to life again. Dudley lays on the ground, whimpering and shaking. Footsteps from behind Harry. He turns, wand at the ready, to see Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia running up to him. He starts to lower it, but they are staring dumbfounded into the sky, watching the Dementors soar away.
What the hell are those?
Dementors.
Petunia kneels on the ground next to Dudley.
Happened, Duddykins.
Vernon turns on Harry, who hastily lowers his wand.
What the hell is a demontoid?
Petunia seizes Dudley and attempts to look into his mouth.
They didn't.
No.
Vernon shoves a large finger at Harry.
I want some answers.
We were attacked.
By those things?
They're evil. If they get the chance, they'll suck your soul out through your mouth.
They're the god of the wizard prison Azkaban.
Vernon and Harry look dumbfounded.
How do you know that?
Petunia shakes her head, looking panicky. Vernon helps Dudley unsteadily to his feet, patting him on the shoulder.
Bottom off, dead. Bottom off, dead. Give him the old 1-2.
You can't give a Dementor the old 1-2.
Why is he all right then?
Because I used magic to save his life.
Street lights die, plunging the street into darkness. Several cloaked people appear around them on the street. The Dursleys yell in surprise. They move closer. Harry stands brandishing his wand.
Lumos.
10 wizards stand around them, wands out. Mad-Eye Moody, Remus Lupin, Nymphadora Tonks, Kingsley Shacklebolt, Elpheus Dogue, Dedulus Diggle, Emmeline Vance, Sturgis Podmore, and Hestia Jones.
Who are you lot?
Quiet, Dursley.
Harry, douse the light. We're exposed.
Knox.
Darkness returns to the street, which is now lit only by the light of the moon.
What are you doing here?
We're advanced guard, Harry. Dumbledore just sent us as soon as he heard about the attack. We're talking to you. We're taking you to safety. We're just waiting for the all clear.
How did he know? It just happened.
You didn't think Dumbledore let you wander around on your own, did you?
Lupin indicates Tonks.
Harry, I don't believe you've met Nymphadora Tonks.
He smiles at him.
Tonks, would you go get Harry's broom from the house?
She nods and departs. Harry looks at Lupin.
What's been going on? What Lord Voldemort been up?
3 of the advanced guard jump.
We're not talking about it here. It's too risky.
Moody's eyes stuck backwards in his head.
Blast it.
He pulls his eye from its socket with a horrible sucking sound.
Mad-Eye, dear, you do realize that's disgusting.
I want 360-degree visibility on return trip.
How are we getting there?
Brooms.
Red sparks fly into the air in the distance. Tonks returns with the broom, handing it to Harry.
There's the first signal.
Right, let's go.
On your broom, Harry.
Moody is moving around them.
Form up around Harry. Make it snappy.
The advanced guard surrounds Harry.
We'll be flying in close quarters formation. Tonks will be right in front of you. Keep close to her at all times. Don't stop, and whatever you do, don't break formation. If any of us are killed, the rest of you, keep flying. If that were to happen, the survivors fly to the east. The rear guard is standing by. They will find you.
Stop being so cheerful, Mad-Eye.
We must be ready. This would be the perfect moment for Voldemort to strike Harry.
Is that very likely?
No one's going to die.
Blue sparks blast into the sky.
There's the second signal.
Mount your brooms, everyone. Here we go.
Seconds later, there is an explosion of green sparks in the sky.
Third signal, everyone. Let's go.
They kick off the ground, which is swiftly left behind.
Stay in formation.
They are not as high as the clouds yet.
We need more height.
It is only seconds later that another warning is shouted their way. A Dementor soars towards them, tattered robes snapping in the wind.
Contacts to the south.
Mad-Eye, you, Tonks, and Lupin, take Harry. We'll slow them down.
The rest of the advanced guard peels away from the group. Harry checks the sky around him. It appears to be clear.
There's the other one, Alastor.
The other Dementor emerges very close by from a cloud.
Harry, leave it to us.
And Lupin peels away, rocketing towards the Dementor.
No!
Lupin goes straight at the Dementor, which smoothly flips upwards, bypassing Lupin. But Lupin twists his broom around, his wand drawn, and points it at the Dementors, retreating back.
Expecto Patronum.
Lupin's Patronus explodes from his wand tip, pulsing out through the clouds at the Dementor. The light blasts into it, and the Dementor, shrieking eerily, retreats back towards the rest of the advanced guard. Lupin rockets past Harry, Tonks, and Moody.
Get Harry to the safe house.
Come on, Potter. Keep moving.
But I can help.
Potter, getting yourself killed won't do a thing. Now move.
Glaring at Moody, Harry wheels his broom around, and the three of them set off again, leaving the battle behind.
We're not far now.
Soon after, Lupin and the rest of the advanced guard return, intact and without injury.
Did you get rid of them?
They're gone, Alistair. Tonks. Are we there, Tonks?
Tonks?
She signed to me. Prepare for descent. Form around Harry.
They cut through the clouds, gliding lower as they went. Tonks touches down right before Harry did, the rest gliding down while maintaining the formation around Harry. All business, they draw their wands.
Stay here, Harry.
Several of the advanced guard move to the perimeter to secure it.
Claire.
Right here, Harry, this way.
Harry follows him, Tonks and Lupin trailing after, wands at the ready, eyes flicking to the buildings surrounding them.
Here, read this.
He hands Harry a piece of paper. It has written on it, "The headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix may be found at number 12 Grimmauld Palace, London." Harry looks at the gap between the houses, and suddenly a door appears, followed by the rest of a large, grey, rather imposing house. Moody takes the paper from Harry and sets it afire with his wand.
Come on inside. Hurry.
Lupin and Tonks step up close to Harry, one on either side. The guards at the perimeter close in a semicircle around the door. Lupin taps the door with his wand and cracks it open.
Get in, quick. Harry, don't touch anything.
Interior Grimmauld Palace place. Night. Harry enters the musty entry hall. To one side is a staircase leading up to the next level. At the base of the stair is a dirty graying sheet hanging on the wall, as if it were covering something. Behind him, the other members of the advanced guard are entering. To make room, Harry steps to one side and runs into an umbrella stand, which clangs loudly as it hits the ground. To steady himself, he reaches out and pulls the sheet from the wall. Behind it is a portrait of an unpleasant, old, thin woman.
Filth, scum, half-breeds, mutants, freaks, be gone from this
place? How dare you befoul the house of my fathers?
Sirius Black comes running into the entry hall. He skids to a halt next to Harry, looking up at Mrs. Black.
Shut up, you miserable old hag. Quiet.
Blood traitor! Abomination! Shame of my flesh!
Yes, do shut up.
He throws the sheet over the picture, and the yells die away. Panting, Sirius looks at Harry and grins. He wraps Harry in a huge bear hug. Harry laughs. Pulling away, Sirius smiles at Harry.
Was that your...
Yes. Dear old mum.
But why here?
This house has been in my family for centuries. It's mine now. I'm the last of the Blacks. I offered it up for headquarters for... Well, and Dumbledore accepted. It's about the most useful thing I've been able to do for a long while.
Mrs. Weasley enters the hall.
Hello, Harry dear.
Mrs. Weasley.
Sirius, the meeting is about to start.
Right.
Harry dear, go upstairs quietly, if you please. They're all up there.
Harry looks up the stairs.
Harry!
Harry looks up the stairs and sees Ron and Hermione standing on the landing. He mounts the stairs to both of them, grinning. Hermione throws herself on Harry in a large hug, laughing.
Let him breathe, Hermione.
Oh, Harry, we've missed you. Are you furious with us? I bet you are.
Hermione.
Hermione lets Harry go and takes a deep breath.
Good to see you, mate.
Come on inside.
They enter an adjacent bedroom, interior bedroom night. They sit down on separate beds.
Sorry we haven't written, Harry, but Dumbledore made us promise not to.
We wanted to, mate. We really did, but he thought they would get intercepted.
There's an awkward silence.
Right.
He thought you'd be safest there.
Yeah, real safe. Attacked by Dementors. That's safe. That is.
He was so angry when he heard. It was scary.
So why is he keeping me in the dark?
Hermione and Ron look awkward.
Didn't you bother asking?
We've only seen him twice, and not for very long. He's very busy.
So I get to spend the summer with the Dursleys while you are here.
It's not that fun, mate. Mum won't let us anywhere near the meetings.
You've still been here.
Hermione and Ron are looking aghast at Harry. Harry looks away. There is a silence.
What's been going on?
We've already told you we're not privy to the meetings, but we do know a few things.
Some of the Order are following known Death Eaters, like Lucius Malfoy. And they're guarding something.
What's this order everyone's talking about?
The Order of the Phoenix. Dumbledore started it last time to fight you-know-who. He only reorganized it after last term.
Moments later, Mrs. Weasley opens the door to their room.
You can come down now. The meeting's over.
They stand up to go. Interior kitchen night. Harry, Ginny, Hermione, Ron, and Mrs. Weasley enter the kitchen, which has been set up with long tables and chairs. At the far end of the long table, Mr. Weasley and Charlie Weasley are talking quietly over a parchment.
Arthur.
Mr. Weasley looks up, sees them, and nods to Charlie, who rolls up the parchment hastily and rises from his seat, moving across the room. Harry sits down at the table across from Sirius.
Well, the Ministry is furious with you.
Why?
You did magic in front of your muggle cousin. You'll have to go to a disciplinary meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
Harry stands up.
I'm not really hungry. I think I'll go to bed.
You surprise me, Harry. I figured the first thing you'd do is start asking about Voldemort.
Harry pauses, then turns around. The room has gone very still. Mrs. Weasley is glaring at Sirius.
I wanted to, but I didn't think you'd tell me anything.
And that was quite right, Harry. You're much too young.
He has a right to know, Molly.
It's not your decision.
I know what Dumbledore said, but he needs to know something.
Yeah.
He's not a child, Molly.
He's not an adult either. He's not James.
I am fully aware of who he is, Molly.
And I only have Harry's best interest at heart.
He's not your son.
Who else does he have, then?
Sirius stands, glaring at Mrs. Weasley.
He's got me. He's like a son to me.
Harry stares at Sirius in surprise. Mrs. Weasley turns and storms out. Sirius sits heavily.
What do you want to know, Harry?
Where's Voldemort? What's he doing?
He's hiding for the moment. Because the Ministry is ignoring his return and he doesn't want that to change.
Lupin.
You really messed things up for him last year, Harry.
How?
The last person you know who wanted to alert was Dumbledore.
And what's his plan?
He's building up his army again, just like before.
And you're stopping him from gaining followers.
We're doing our best, but it's proving to be difficult.
You see, when the Ministry of Magic insists that Voldemort isn't back.
But why?
Fudge likes being Minister of Magic. If it turns out that Voldemort came back under his watch, he'd be sacked.
But you're telling people, right?
Sirius laughed.
Well, they think I'm a mass murderer, Lupin is a werewolf, Tonks and Arthur will lose their jobs at the Ministry.
But Dumbledore is doing all he can.
Sorry, I was eating. If he keeps it up, he might end up in Azkaban, and that will give you-know-who a clear field to...
Weasley stops short and looks as if he'd nearly said too much.
What?
You know who wants something. Something he didn't have last time. A weapon.
What kind of weapon?
Lupin and Sirius exchanged looks.
I'm sorry, Harry. We can't say anything more.
Interior bedroom night. Harry sleeps. He dreams. Interior hallway night. Harry moves slowly down a dark hallway. It has many bolted doors down its long sides. Soon he is running. Then, suddenly, he is being pulled along the doors, rushing past faster and faster. Harry can see the end of the hallway. It is a blinding light. Still, only a speck. It grows larger as he rockets towards it. Then he flies right into it, and the light explodes all around him, engulfing him. Interior bedroom day. Harry wakes with a cry, sitting straight up in bed. He's covered in sweat, looking disturbed. Interior hall day. Mrs. Weasley, Mr. Weasley, Lupin, Ron, Hermione, and Ginny are standing in the hall, waiting as Sirius and Harry descend the stairs.
Morning, dear. Did you have a good sleep?
No, my scar kept hurting.
Mr. Weasley and Lupin exchange nervous glances.
Probably just nerves.
Yeah, nerves.
Good luck, Harry.
He hugs Harry. After the hug, Harry stands back but is suddenly hugged by Hermione.
I'll have to let you off, Harry. You were defending yourself. I checked the laws.
Thanks, Hermione.
What does he get a hug for?
When you have to go to a disciplinary hearing at the Ministry of Magic, I'll hug you too.
Oh, sure, that's why.
Ronald Weasley, are you jealous?
Me? Jealous? Of course not. It just doesn't seem fair that you hug one friend more than the others, or...
Would you like a hug?
No, I'd hate to force you.
Harry grins and shakes his head.
Well, come on, Harry. Time to go.
Bye.
He waves, and he and Mr. Weasley depart. Exterior London Street day. The street is not very crowded as the sun rises in the east. Harry and Mr. Weasley hurry along the sidewalk and come to a phone booth. Mr. Weasley looks around cautiously.
Good, good. Not very many muggles.
He opens the phone booth and slips inside. He beckons to Harry.
Well, come on, Harry. In we go.
Harry slips inside the booth, and Mr. Weasley, with some difficulty, closes the door behind them. Mr. Weasley picks up the phone and listens in the wrong end for a moment.
I do love using the felly tone. Now let's see, what's the number again?
He punches in 62442. There is a tap on the glass of the box. Mr. Weasley glances out of the window to see a muggle man standing outside. The man taps his watch impatiently. Mr. Weasley holds up a finger as to say, just a second. The man sighs and turns around, tapping his foot.
Welcome to the Ministry of Magic. Please state your business.
Harry Potter disciplinary hearing.
Please stand by.
There is a pause, and then the whole phone booth begins to sink down into the ground. The man, his back to the booth, is completely oblivious. Interior of Magic Day. The booth sinks lower into the ground.
Usually I apparate, but you're too young, so I thought we'd take the scenic route. Rita.
The booth shudders to a halt, and the door slides open, revealing a large lobby filled with busy-looking wizards and witches going to and fro. Harry and Mr. Weasley exit the phone booth and enter the lobby. The door to the phone booth closes, and it slides open again, out of sight. Exterior street day. The Muggle man stands tapping his foot. The booth reemerges topside and stops, looking very innocent. The man turns around, blinks, and glances around for the two people that had been inside it before. Interior Ministry of Magic Day. Mr. Weasley walks through the crowd of wizards.
Keep close, Harry.
Astute, timid-looking white-haired wizard pushes his way through the crowd towards Mr. Weasley.
Ah, Perkins, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Perkins. Good morning. Excuse me. Perkins.
After they change
Hello.
the time of Potter's hearing.
Blast! Dumbledore thought they might try that.
Started at 8.
Good Lord, that was 5 minutes ago. Come on, Harry.
They break into a run. They jog down hallway after hallway, then Mr. Weasley leads Harry onto a large lift. There are several other witches and wizards on it. It descends shudderingly for a few moments, then stops.
Department of Mysteries.
Department of Mysteries?
Yep. I've got no idea what they get up into in there. It's top secret.
The lift doors open. Harry and Mr. Weasley exit, running down the corridors. Harry skids to a stop and looks down a dark hallway. Mr. Weasley stops as well and glances back at Harry.
Come on, Harry.
I've been there before.
Mr. Weasley looks nervous, then grabs Harry's robes and drags him along.
Now, Harry, I find that highly unlikely.
A few moments later, they arrive.
There you are, Harry. In you go. Good luck.
Harry enters the chamber. Interior courtroom day. One side of the courtroom is an elevated ziggurat-shaped series of seats carved from black stone. The whole room is dark, save a light shining through from the ceiling down on the center of the room, where a single wooden chair sits.
You're late.
Sorry.
No matter. The accused will take his seat.
Harry does so, glancing nervously at the chains on it.
Very well. We are ready to begin.
Witness for the defense, Albus, Percival, Wulfric, Brian, Dumbledore. Harry turns in his seat. Dumbledore stands by the door of the courtroom looking up at the minister.
Ah, you got our message that the time had changed, did you?
Must have missed it. However, due to a fortunate mistake, I arrived at the ministry 3 hours early. Dumbledore conjures up a squashy chintz armchair next to Harry's and sits down with a mild squeak. He steeples his fingers and looks up at the minister with an expression of polite interest.
Well, the charges.
He consults his notes.
The charges against the accused shall now be read into the record. That the accused did with deliberation and foreknowledge of the illegality of his actions produce a Patronus charm in the presence of a Muggle. You are Harry James Potter?
Yes.
And you conjured the Patronus on the night of the 11th of August?
Yes, but...
Within full sight of a Muggle?
Yes, but...
You produced a full Patronus with clearly defined shape?
Yes.
That is most remarkable, Mr. Potter.
It doesn't matter how impressive it was.
But I did it because of the Dementors.
What do you mean?
My cousin and I were attacked by Dementors. That's why I had to use the Patronus to drive them away.
Ah, yes. Another cock and bull story.
It's the truth.
Of course it is.
Dementors and little winging.
Oh, come now, Susan. He's clearly lying.
Actually, we have a witness to the presence of the Dementors in question.
We haven't got time to...
I may be wrong, but I do believe that it says somewhere in the Wizengamot Charter of Rights that the accused has the right to present witnesses to prove his or her case. In fact, I do believe I wrote that particular bit myself.
Very well. Weasley, fetch the witness.
Percy goes to the door and lets Mrs. Fig in. She stands in front of Harry and Dumbledore nervously.
Full name?
Arabella Doreen Fig, resident of Little White.
So, what is your story?
I was sitting on my porch when I saw two Dementors gliding towards two boys.
What did the Dementors look like?
Well, they were big and wore great tattered clothes.
There is some murmuring among the Wizengamot at that.
Anything else?
I felt them. It was horrible. Like I would never be happy again.
Very well, you may go.
Mrs. Fig hurries from the courtroom.
Not very convincing.
Oh, I disagree. She described their effects very completely.
So 2 Dementors just happened to be in Little Whinging? I think not.
Only if the Dementors are still taking their orders from only the Ministry these days. I believe you know my views on this, Cornelius.
Yes, and they're nothing but bilge, Dumbledore.
Umbridge shifts into the light. She is a short, ugly, toad-like woman.
Excuse me, Dumbledore. What did you say you just accused the Ministry of Magic of ordering an attack on this boy?
If the Dementors are taking their orders from the Ministry exclusively, then it must certainly follow logically that someone in the Ministry ordered the attack. And in that case, I'm sure the Ministry will make a full inquiry.
Dementors are irrelevant.
On the contrary, Cornelius, if they were there, then Harry was acting in self-defense, which is perfectly allowable under the Clause 7 of the Decree of Reasonable Restriction of Underage Wizardry. We're all in agreement on this?
Well, yes, if he's telling the truth.
You have heard it from eyewitnesses, Cornelius.
Very well. All for clearing the accused of charges.
He glances around the room, noting all the hands in the air.
All opposed?
Only a few hands.
Fine. Cleared of all charges.
Excellent. Dumbledore gets out of his chair, vanishes it with the wave of a wand, and sweeps from the courtroom. Harry gets out of the wooden chair, glances upward at Umbridge. Their eyes meet for a split second. She glowers at him. Harry exits. Interior hall, day. Harry exits the courtroom to find Mr. Weasley standing outside, beaming.
Harry, you've been let off. That's wonderful.
The door opens again, and the whole of the Wizengamot exits.
You were tried by the full court.
I think so, yeah.
Well, no matter. Let's go.
Just then, Percy exits and brushes by Mr. Weasley without even looking at him.
Is Percy mad at you?
Ah, yes. I'm afraid we had a bit of a row. He sided with Fudge and the rest of us sided with Dumbledore, so Percy left.
They begin walking away from the courtroom when they come upon Fudge talking quietly with Lucius Malfoy, standing at the mouth of the corridor Harry had recognized earlier.
Well, if it isn't Patronus Potter. The minister here was just telling me how very lucky an escape you just had. Quite astonishing. Snake-like.
What are you doing here?
Come now, Potter. I really don't think that private matters between the minister and myself are any concern of yours.
Lucius moves closer to Harry.
All you need to concern yourself about are your dreams, Potter.
And Lucius smiles malevolently at Harry. Lucius steps back and turns to the minister.
Shall we continue this in your office, Fudge?
Certainly.
Harry watches them go.
If you wanted to talk to the minister, why down here?
Don't know, Harry. Some things are just beyond comprehension.
As he speaks, Mr. Weasley glances down the long, dark hallway with a worried look. Interior, Grimmauld Place, day. Harry stands in the kitchen of Grimmauld Place, surrounded by Ron, Ginny, Fred, George, Hermione, Sirius, Lupin, Mr. and Mrs. Weasley, and Tonks.
I knew it!
In the background, Ginny, Fred, and George are dancing a strange jig.
He got off.
He got off.
He got off. He got off.
Hermione hugs Harry again. Ron glowers at her.
Settle down, you three.
The chanting and dancing dies away. Mrs. Weasley exits the kitchen.
Sirius, we saw Fudge talking with Lucius Malfoy on level 9 again. Tell Dumbledore next time he comes in, would you?
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Well, I'd better be off. Got a bewitched, vomiting toilet to deal with.
George, remember that concept. Vomiting toilet. Right you are, Fred.
Also, I'm covering for Tonks on guard duty later tonight, so I won't be back until late.
Harry's scar explodes in pain. He yelps and claps his hands to his forehead.
Harry!
Harry gasps with pain and falls to his knees. Then, as suddenly as it had come, the pain vanishes. Shaken, Harry gasps at as Sirius helps him over to a chair.
Are you all right, Harry?
Yeah, just my scar. The pain is getting stronger.
Sirius gives a worried glance to Lupin, who looks grim. Interior bedroom day. Harry sits on his bunk thinking. Sirius enters the room, but Harry barely reacts, still gazing into space.
Harry, I've got something that might interest you.
Harry looks up. Sirius sits on the edge of the bed and brandishes an old tattered photo. Harry takes it.
This was the original Order of the Phoenix. Found it while we were cleaning.
Harry looks down at all the smiling faces.
There's Mad Eye and Dumbledore, right next to Daedalus Diggle, Marlene McKinnon. She was killed 2 weeks after this was taken. There's Frank and Alice Longbottom, tortured into insanity by Death Eaters. Lupin, of course. Edgar Burns. They only never found bits of him. Caradoc Dearborn, he vanished 6 months later. Hagrid, of course. Gideon and Fabrit Prewett. Took 5 Death Eaters to finish those 2 off. Me, of course. There they are.
Harry watches his parents beam up at him.
My parents.
He watches the picture for a long second.
I miss them, Sirius.
I know, Harry. I know. I miss them too.
He puts his arm around Harry.
It's not fair that I got to spend so much time with them and you didn't.
Harry closes his eyes.
Why'd they have to die, Sirius? Why?
I don't know, Harry. I wish I did, but I don't.
There is a long moment of silence.
I know I'm not your father, Harry, but I'll always be there for you if I can help it.
Thanks.
The door cracks open and an ugly, menacing house elf enters, looking around suspiciously.
Have my blood with the scar. He cries. Why does he cry so?
Creature, get out of here! Now!
Oh, how the old mistress would weep to see the traitor in her house.
Who was that?
Creature. He's been alone with the house for years. He's gone a bit funny. You'd better get some rest.
Sirius gets up and exits. Ron and Hermione burst into the room seconds later.
Harry, Ron and we've been named house prefects.
She hands Harry a letter. There are a few seconds of parchment ripping.
What about you, Harry?
But there is no prefect badge in Harry's letter. He shakes his head.
Are you sure? I would have thought you would get one.
I'm sure nothing.
There is an awkward moment.
So, congratulations, Ron and Hermione.
Well, thanks, Harry.
Come on, let's go back downstairs.
Yes. Do go enjoy yourselves.
Harry lays down on his bed away from them. He hears them leave. He is alone. Exterior Hogwarts Express, day. The Hogwarts Express rushes past the moors of Scotland on its way to Hogwarts. Soon it is night again. Exterior Hogsmeade, night. Harry, Ginny, Ron, and Hermione exit the Hogwarts Express and move quickly through the crowd of students to the carriages that would take them to the castle. As they prepare to climb into one of the carriages, Harry stops and stares towards the front of the carriage. There is a large reptilian horse-like creature harnessed to the front, whereas always before there was nothing.
What is that?
What?
That thing.
Ron stares for a long moment, then looks at Harry.
Harry, there's nothing there, mate.
Yes, it is. It's right there.
He points. Ron shakes his head.
You're not going mad, Harry. I see them too.
Harry turns.
You're just as sane as I am.
Harry turns to her. Luna Lovegood is a spacey-looking girl, yet pretty in her own right.
You are...
Luna Lovegood.
Well, thanks, Luna.
They clamber into the carriage. Luna follows. It stops moving. Interior carriage night. Harry looks out into the darkness of the Hogwarts grounds. He spies Hagrid's hut in the dark. All the lights are off within.
Hagrid's cabin looks deserted.
I hope he's all right.
What if he was still on his...
He glances at Luna, who has vanished behind the latest edition of the Quibbler magazine.
What if he's still on his mission from Dumbledore?
Yeah, could be.
Moments later, the carriages halt and the students pile out. Interior, Hogwarts, Great Hall, night. Hogwarts headmaster, Professor Dumbledore, a wizened old man with a great white beard to his belt and long white hair, stands to address the school. I beg a few moments of your attention as I have a few start-of-term announcements. Right off, our caretaker, the good Mr. Filch, has reminded me for what he says is the 462nd time that he had an annually updated list of various banned items, usually introduced by our humor experts Fred and George Weasley. Fred and George stand and take a bow to cheering, laughter, and yells, which are posted in an extensive list on the door to Mr. Filch's door. Harry grins at Fred and George. Also, we have 2 staffing changes this year. Professor Grubbyplank will be taking the post of care of magical creatures post as Professor Hagrid is on extended leave. Harry, Ron, and Hermione exchange glances. Additionally, we have Professor Umbridge, who has kindly agreed to fill the post of Defense Against the Dark Arts. At this, Umbridge starts and clears her throat.
Headmaster, if I could address the school.
Dumbledore looks taken aback. McGonagal glares at Umbridge. Dumbledore sits down and invites Umbridge forward.
Thank you, Headmaster. Now, how are we all doing tonight? I thought I would just say a few words. I'm here at the Ministry of Magic's bequest under the Educational Decree 22, which states that if the headmaster of Hogwarts is unable to fill any teaching post, the ministry shall select one for the position.
Dumbledore inclines his head. There is murmuring from the students.
The ministry has always considered the magical education of our children to be of vital importance, and the passing down of this ancient and noble art must be given to the next generation, lest it be lost forever. Without progress, stagnation. But progress, for progress's sake, is to be discouraged, for our art requires no tinkering. A balance must be attained, the new and the old, permanence and change, tradition and innovation, order and chaos. There are large changes coming soon, changes walking the final line between order and chaos. Know only that these changes are for the best and to prevent the destruction of our civilization from its own decay. Thank you.
Umbridge smiles at them all, but to Harry, the smile seems a little forced, a little fake. Interior Gryffindor dorms at night. Harry enters the boys' dormitory. Within the room are a number of poster beds. Harry goes to his and sits down. Also in the room are Dean, Thomas, Neville Longbottom, and Seamus Finnegan.
So why didn't your mum want you to come back to Hogwarts, Seamus?
What?
The ma'am didn't want me to come back to Hogwarts.
Why?
Well, because of you.
What did I do?
She figures you're lying about you-know-who, and Dumbledore's a right nutter.
Where'd she get that from?
Seamus picks up an edition of the Daily Prophet and passes it to Harry. Harry catches it and looks at the front page. It reads, Harry Potter, boy hero, uses lies to seek attention, with the subheading of Hogwarts headmaster buys his story.
So she believes this stuff.
Well, yeah.
But you believe me, don't you?
Seamus looks away. Harry turns and storms out of the dorm. Exterior Hogwarts night. Harry sits on the top of the astronomy tower, looking out over the lake and the forbidden forest in the distance. Hagrid's hut dark and foreboding at the edge of the forest. Hedwig sits on the parapet next to Harry.
No one believes me, Hedwig. No one.
Leans and turns against the stone parapet, then slides down to the ground, his back against the cold stone.
I'm alone.
Hedwig takes off into the night, flying over the castle. Dissolve, exterior Hogwarts day. The sun rises over Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Interior Hogwarts day. Harry runs down the halls of Hogwarts. He skids around a corner and pushes through the door to the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. Interior class day. The whole class looks around at Harry as he comes staggering in.
Sorry, Professor.
Professor Umbridge smiles, toad-like, at Harry.
Let's see. 5 points from Gryffindor for coming in late.
Harry frowns but sits down next to Ron and Hermione.
Now, as I was saying before Mr. Potter interrupted with his antics, your Defense Against the Dark Arts education has been rather fragmented and disjointed in your past classes, hasn't it? Now, know now that this is about to be rectified. I will be following a pre-approved, ministry-prepared, theory-centered defense lesson plan.
She waves a wand at the blackboard and words are written down on it.
Copy this down.
Everyone opens their books and begins copying, except Hermione, who sits with a book unopened, her hand in the air. Umbridge ignores her. However, within the next few seconds, nearly the whole class is watching Hermione. Umbridge sighs.
Yes?
I want to know something about your course aims.
Well, they should be perfectly self-evident.
Well, I don't think they are. They say nothing about actually doing spells.
I can imagine no circumstance in my class where you would need to use spells, my dear.
But surely the whole point of Defense Against the Dark Arts is practical application.
Miss Granger, this class has been approved by ministry experts. Are you a ministry expert?
No, but...
Then you have no business challenging those who are. We will be learning about spells in a safe, risk-free environment.
But we've got owls coming up. You expect us to do the spells with no practice?
What's good theory in the real world?
This is school, not the real world, Mr. Potter. There is nothing out there waiting to get you.
What about Lord Voldemort?
The whole class flinched at the sound of the name.
10 points from Gryffindor, Mr. Potter. Let me set the record straight.
She stands behind a desk, leaning on her knuckles.
Some of you have been told that a certain dead wizard has returned. This is a lie.
Harry stands up, knocking his books to the ground, a look of livid rage on his face.
It's not a lie. I saw him.
Mr. Potter, you have just landed yourself in detention.
Harry moves around his desk stiffly, trembling with rage, his eyes dangerous.
So according to you, Cedric Diggory dropped dead, or are you calling me a murderer?
The boy's death was a tragic accident.
Harry has reached the desk. He slams his fist against the wood, thrusting his face right up to Umbridge's, glaring at her.
It was a murder. I saw it happen.
The class is deathly still. Vati Patil is covering her mouth.
Mr. Potter, you have earned yourself a week's worth of detentions.
Yeah, talk to somebody who cares. Voldemort killed Cedric, and you know it.
Umbridge snatches a quill up and scribbles a note and hands it to Harry.
That goes to Professor McGonagal, dear.
Harry rips it from her hand and storms out of the room. Interior Hall's day. Harry storms down the halls, turns a corner, and practically kicks open the door to McGonagal's office. Interior McGonagal's office, day. Harry stomps in and hands the note to McGonagal. She takes it and glances at it.
Professor?
Sorry, what page are we on? Because I didn't have this highlighted.
45.
45. Top of 45.
40.
Let me find it.
All right, pause.
Sorry, the search function was not working on this, so I think I probably missed it.
Yeah, it was weird. It wasn't working for this one. I tried as well.
Sorry. Is this true? Did you shoot at Professor Umbridge?
Yeah, but she called me a liar.
My dear boy, you use your common sense. Umbridge is reporting directly to Fudge. She's here to interfere with Dumbledore. And if things could get much worse, trust me. Use caution, always, Potter. Do not mess with Dolores Umbridge. She's dangerous. The Order's hands are tied with Hogwarts, Harry. If you get too deep with the trouble, we may not be able to get you out. Do you understand?
Yes, Professor.
Good. Off you go.
Interior Gryffindor common room, day. Harry, Hermione, and Ron sit in a corner of the large common room, trying to ignore the talking and chattering going on all around them.
How can Dumbledore let that horrible woman teach? And when we're taking our OWL test too?
You reckon she's here to spy on us?
Well, not us specifically, but definitely Dumbledore and the Order.
At that moment, Angelina Johnson comes up to them.
Well, way to go, Potter. Your detention is at the same time as Quidditch practice.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to get out of it somehow. We're holding tryouts for keeper now Wood's gone, and I wanted to have the whole team there.
I'll never get out of it, Angelina.
Well, just don't do it again.
And she storms off. Interior courtyard, day. Harry, Ron, and Hermione are heading back inside to the Gryffindor common room. The sun is setting in the distance.
Well, Harry, shall we start on Snape's report?
Later. I've got detention.
Good luck, Harry.
Thanks.
Interior Umbridge's office, night. The door to her office creaks open and Harry enters.
Ah, Potter. Sit down.
Harry sits in a chair right in front of a desk.
You're going to be doing lines tonight, Mr. Potter, and you'll be using this quill.
The quill is blood red and sinister looking. Harry takes it.
You will write, I will not tell lies until I tell you to stop. Do you understand?
There's no ink.
No, you won't need ink.
Harry begins to write, then gasps in pain. He looks at his hand and finds that I will not tell lies has carved itself in the skin of his hand, and the quill had written the words on the parchment in bright red blood. Then the words healed over again on his hand. Harry glances at Umbridge, who is smiling eagerly.
Problem, Potter?
Harry shakes his head and returns to his lines. He gasps after writing it again. The words on his hand had gotten deeper. Gritting his teeth, he forces himself on. Dissolve, Harry's shaking, weak hand scratches the final line of the evening. The words on the back of his hand, not even healing any longer, but bleeding profusely.
That's enough for this evening. Same time tomorrow? And we'll see if we can get the message to sink a bit deeper.
Harry staggers to his feet, weak and pale, and staggers from the office. Interior Hogwarts night. Harry exits Umbridge's office and staggers down the hall and around a corner, then breaks into a terrified run. Interior hallway night. Harry moves down the dark hallway again, slowly, meaningfully. Locked doors are all around him, lining the walls as far down as he could see. He breaks into a jog and then a run, then a sprint. The door rushes past him. Suddenly, an invisible force grabs him and pulls him along, faster and faster. The door's a blur. Then he saw the end, a blinding light, which he blasts into with a smack. And as the light fades, he catches a glimpse of a further room beyond the light for only an instant. Then it too is gone. and Harry awakes with a yelp, hands pressed against his scar, which is burning horribly. He rubs it until the pain goes away. Interior Gryffindor common room day. Hermione steps into the common room looking puzzled.
Hey, Harry.
He looks up from his parchment.
Have you seen Ron? I can't find him anywhere.
Harry shakes his head. Harry. Harry Potter.
No, I haven't.
He's been acting fishy all week. He's up to something.
Harry packs up his parchments. He stands.
Harry.
At Umbridge's office, night. Harry scratches away with a horrible quill, gritting his teeth, determined not to make a sound. Sweat beads on his face, and blood was flowing freely from the cuts on his hand.
That's enough for tonight, Potter. Let's see that hand.
She reaches out and touches his hand. Instantly, pain explodes in his scar, and Harry leaps back as if electrocuted, stumbling due to blood loss. He clutches at his scar in agony. Harry stares at her in horror. She grins unpleasantly. He staggers backward and out the door to her office without another word. Interior Hogwarts hallway night. Harry attempts to run down the hallway, swaying on his feet as a drunk. Blood pours down his hand, dribbling onto the floor. He staggers toward the portrait hole back to the Gryffindor Commons. It stands open and Harry passes through it. Interior Gryffindor common room night. The Quidditch team stands around talking. Ron spies Harry.
Harry, I tried out for Quidditch keeper at the tryouts. I'm on the team.
Everything stops as they take in the sight of Harry, pale and gaunt, barely standing, with one hand clutching his scar and the other hanging limply at one side, covered in blood.
Harry, bloody hell.
Harry's knees give out, and he falls to the floor. Fred, George, Ron, and Hermione lift him up.
He's got to be taken to the hospital wing.
No, can't give him. Unbridge the satisfaction.
Umbridge did this? You said she was making you do lines.
They settle Harry back down.
She is, but the quill has some sort of spell on it. It uses blood for ink.
That's all, hag. She's sick.
Hermione looks horrified.
Oh, Harry, you've got to go to Dumbledore. You can't keep this up.
No, I'm telling anyone.
Harry, I really think you should tell someone.
No.
Harry climbs slowly to his feet.
I don't need his help. I don't need anyone's help.
He pushes past them and limps up to the boys' dorm. Interior Great Hall. Day. Harry sits at the Gryffindor table, bent over a parchment, his quill scratching away. He looks up, finished. Ron and Hermione join him. Hermione is staring up at the teacher's table. Hagrid's chair is still empty.
Hagrid's still not back yet. I hope he's all right.
I've asked Sirius about it.
He indicates the parchment. Hermione pulls it towards her. She looks startled.
Harry, you can't write to him. Owls are being intercepted. It isn't safe.
Don't worry, Hermione. I wrote it in code. Anyway, I figured I need to tell someone about Umbridge. My scar hurt again last night in detention.
Always knew she was a bit fishy.
You think she's working for you-know-who?
Well, it's a possibility, isn't it?
Hermione looks dubious.
I suppose so. You could have her under the Imperius curse, though it's unlikely. Dumbledore would know.
Harry leans in even closer.
Yeah, but Dumbledore didn't have a choice, did he? She'd been sent here by the Ministry.
Hermione unfurls a copy of the Daily Prophet.
Anything about Harry?
No, nothing. Wait, look at this.
She slaps the paper down on the table. Harry and Ron lean closer.
Trespass at Ministry. Sturgis Podmore has appeared before the Wizengamot with charges of trespass and attempted robbery at the Ministry of Magic on the 31st of August. He was arrested when found trying to break into a top security door at 1 a.m. Podmore was convicted and sentenced to 6 months in Azkaban.
Sturgis Podmore?
Wait, he's one of the Order.
Hermione glares at Ron.
Quiet.
You suppose it was a frame-up?
They stop talking. Dean Thomas walks by.
Come on, we'll be late for charms if we don't hurry.
Right.
Harry takes back the parchment and stands.
You go on without me. I want to send this.
They part ways. Interior Owlery Day. Harry steps into the owlery, the floor covered in straw and hundreds of owls, hooting softly on many roosts.
Hedwig.
Hedwig flutters down to him. He gives the parchment to the owl. She flies out of the open window and soars away out of sight over the forbidden forest. Harry watches the forest. A huge animal which appeared to be a winged reptilian horse. Harry frowns. Behind him, the door creaks open. He turns to see Cho Chang entering.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Didn't think anyone would be up here.
She moves to a brown school owl. There is an awkward silence.
Have you found a new keeper for Quidditch?
Yeah, my friend Ron Weasley.
He ties the package to the owl.
He any good?
Well, he made the team. I missed the tryouts.
She lets go of the owl and it flies out the window.
Yeah, Umbridge. You were really brave standing up to her.
Harry straightens, smiling.
Yeah, well, it was the truth.
The owlery door bursts open again. August Filch charges in.
Right, Potter. I have what you're sending.
What?
I've had a tip-off that you're ordering a large quantity of dung bombs. Now hand it over.
You're too late. It's gone.
Filch looks furious.
Yeah, I saw him send it.
Filch regards her for a moment, then turns back to Harry.
A single whiff of a dung bomb in this castle, Potter. You're mine.
He turns and departs. There is a silence for a moment as Harry and Cho process what has happened.
You weren't ordering dung bombs, were you?
No.
I wonder why I think you were. Well, see you, Harry.
She turns and leaves the owlery. Harry smiles.
What a load of rubbish.
Exterior Hogwarts courtyard day. Hermione, Harry, and Ron are making their way back to the castle. Ron and Harry are in Quidditch robes and caked in mud. Ron is looking upset.
You ordering dung bombs? I mean, really?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Unless whoever tipped Filch off was interested in reading your mail, Harry. I mean, doesn't it seem a little too coincidental that Filch was tipped off when you happened to be sending a message to Sirius?
Harry looks thoughtful.
Yeah, that does seem weird. You figure it's Umbridge?
I don't know.
Just then, Malfoy appears close by.
Hey, Weasley. Nice job on the field today. You'll be our best player on the pitch.
Get bent, Malfoy.
Draco and the other Slytherins laugh. Ron shakes his head as they walk.
No, he's right. I'm useless out there. Complete rubbish.
It's your first practice. Don't worry about it.
Ron looks unusually pale.
I'm gonna make a fool of myself out there.
Harry gasps and rubs at his scar.
Are you all right, Harry?
Yeah, it's just the pain's getting stronger.
Ron and Hermione exchange glances. Interior Gryffindor common room, night. Harry, Ron, and Hermione sit near each other in the common room. Around them, people talk, laugh, and study. Hermione sighs and shuts her book with a snap.
I don't know how we're ever going to pass our owls in defense against the dark arts without any practice. That Umbridge woman is so...
Looks at Harry and Ron.
We've got to do something about her.
The boys stare at her.
Yeah, well, poison should do the trick.
Don't be silly, Ron. Not her. I meant her teaching. We're not going to learn anything in that class.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, I thought we should do it ourselves.
Do what?
Defense against the dark arts. We teach ourselves.
I don't know.
There is a tapping sound coming from the window. They turn and look.
Hermes?
He goes to the window and opens it. Hermes deposits a letter in Ron's hands, turns and vanishes out the window again. The last Gryffindor heads for bed, leaving the common room deserted except for the three of them. Ron opens it and returns to his seat.
It's from Percy.
Read it.
Dear Ron, Congratulations on becoming a prefect. For some time I was worried you would take the Fred and George route instead of following in my footsteps. You can imagine my relief that this is not the case.
He looks incredulously at Harry and Hermione.
Keep reading.
Given your attachment to using me as a role model, I will give you a bit of advice from one respective authority to another. It is likely that you have been seeing quite a lot of Harry Potter of late. I must recommend you break ties with that boy as soon as possible. He may be Dumbledore's favorite, but Dumbledore may no longer be at charge of Hogwarts much longer. Your loyalty should lie with the Ministry of Magic, not Dumbledore and Potter's personality cult. Please do not fear breaking ties with Potter. If trouble arises, go to Dolores Umbridge, a truly delightful woman. I hope you will carefully consider my advice to you, Ron. Don't let the dangerous errors of Dumbledore, Potter, and unfortunately our parents lure you into destroying a perfectly good career. Percy.
Ron looks up, aghast.
Well, if you want to break ties with me, I swear I won't get violent.
Ron tears the letter in half.
He's the world's biggest git!
He hurls the pieces into the fireplace.
Watch it!
Serious?
Startled.
Right you are. Got your letter and thought we ought to talk in person.
He cranes his neck at the burning letter.
What was that?
Letter from Percy.
Yeah, full of the usual rubbish.
Except he did. Dumbledore might not be in charge here much longer.
It doesn't surprise me. Fudge wants Dumbledore out.
Why?
Well, he's worried Dumbledore is trying to turn students against the Ministry.
Well, that would explain why Umbridge isn't teaching us anything useful in defense against the dark arts.
Exactly. The Ministry doesn't want you trained in combat.
Why does he think Dumbledore is going to raise an army?
That's exactly what he's worried about. Fudge is getting more paranoid about Dumbledore every day.
What do you know about Umbridge?
She's a nasty piece of work. Apparently she hates part humans.
Could she be a Death Eater?
The Order seriously doubts it. She's no picnic, but she's no Death Eater either.
But she's evil.
The world isn't split into the Order and Death Eaters, Harry.
Harry sits back, looking unsatisfied.
As to your question about Hagrid, well, no one's really sure what happened to him, actually. He was supposed to be back a while ago.
What?
Dumbledore's not worried about him, though. Hagrid's tough. He'll be all right.
Well, he's supposed to be back by now.
Look, asking questions about him will only make it more obvious that he's not back.
Suddenly, he glances with concern at the wall of the fireplace.
Get out of here!
His head vanishes. A split second later, a stubby-fingered hand appears in the fire, groping for Sirius's head. The three of them run for their dormitories. Interior Gryffindor boys' dorm, night. Harry lays on his bed, fast asleep. He dreams. Dissolve. Interior Department of Ministries, night. Harry strolls along the darkened corridor, passing the many grey doors. There is only one door that enters him. It lies at the end of the long hall, pure white light shining through the gap between door and jamb. Harry moves towards it, bathed in shining light. He reaches out his hand to the door and grasps at the handle. It is locked. He shakes the handle and hits the door. Interior Gryffindor boys' dorm, night. Harry's eyes snap open. He rubs at his scar, wincing in pain. Interior Great Hall, day. Hermione opens her edition of the Daily Prophet and sits up in alarm.
I cannot believe it!
Harry and Ron glance at her. She slaps the paper down on the table.
Ministry passes Educational Decree number 23. Dolores Umbridge appointed Hogwarts High Inquisitor.
He looks at Harry and Hermione.
What's that mean?
It says here that the High Inquisitor has the power to inspect all of the teachers.
You're kidding.
That's not all. The High Inquisitor also has the power to sack teachers as well.
Fred and George march by.
So, seen the news, have you? Personally, I envy you three. Why is that? Umbridge is inspecting McGonagal in your period. That old toad won't know what hit her.
He looks at Fred wistfully.
Oh, to be a youth again. To experience the distant glee of watching Umbridge be destroyed by the greatest head of Gryffindor of the century. Well, we'll expect a full report after, complete with facial expressions.
And they wander off. Interior divination class day. Professor Trelawney stands before her class.
Greetings, my children. I sense even now that many of you have already made the transition into the beyond.
Umbridge smiles, toad-like.
Today we will be continuing our interpretation of prophetic dreams. Please divide into your groups and discuss your recent nighttime visions using the text as guide.
Ron and Harry open their books while listening to Trelawney and Umbridge.
And how long have you been at this post?
Near to 16 years. I have been the guide to young seers, possessed of inner sight.
Umbridge makes a note.
I understand that you are the descendant of the famous seer Cassandra Trelawney?
I am.
And you are the first since Cassandra to have the second sight?
These things tend to skip several generations.
Of course.
She makes another note.
Now, if you would kindly make a prediction for me.
Trelawney seems to swell with indignation.
The inner eye does not see upon command?
Umbridge smiles unpleasantly and makes an extensive note. Trelawney becomes agitated and looks around wildly. She steps up to Harry, who recoils slightly.
My dear boy, your dream diary, if you please.
Harry nervously hands his diary to her. She takes it with trembling fingers and gazes at it for only a moment. She drops it back to the table and gives a little scream.
My dear boy, my poor boy, these dreams are evil portents.
Harry looks at the page.
Friend, I was at breakfast eating oatmeal.
Trelawney stares at him for a moment. Umbridge smirks in the background, making more notes.
Yes, oatmeal. Are you telling me you cannot see the signs? The foretelling of suffering and death? Perhaps you are not as in the beyond as the others.
She sweeps from Harry's table.
Well, if that's the best you can do, Professor, I will be going.
Exterior Hogwarts day. Leaves, now a malted brown colour, drift off the trees around Hogwarts. It is now October. Exterior Hogsmeade day. Hermione, Ron, and Harry walk down the crowded streets of Hogsmeade, avoiding the swarms of other students.
Where are we going, Hermione?
She leads them on confidently. They stop before a slightly seedy-looking pub.
There we are.
Hogshead, Hermione?
She leads them towards it.
Come on, I'll explain in a minute.
Interior Hogshead day. The three of them step into the pub. It is grimy and ill-lit. Shady witches and wizards sit uneasily in corners, except for one corner by the front window, which is populated by Dean Thomas, Neville Longbottom, Lavender Brown, Parvati and Padma Patil, Cho Chang, Luna Lovegood, Katie Bell, Alicia Spinett, Angelina Johnson, Colin and Dennis Crovey, Ernie Macmillan, Justin Finch Fletchley, Hannah Abbott, Anthony Goldstein, Michael Corner, Terry Boot, Jenny Weasley, Fred and George Weasley, Lee Jordan, Zacharias Smith, Susan Bones, and 5 others who Harry doesn't know. Harry looks questioningly at Hermione.
Hermione, what's going on?
These are some people I mentioned my defense against the dark arts I'll deal with.
She sits down. Harry and Ron follow.
You mean about us teaching ourselves?
Hey, Harry.
Hey, Neville. Hey, Neville.
It's good to see that the horned snorkel stacks haven't gotten you yet, Harry.
Harry looks confused for a moment.
Same you, Luna.
Hermione beats on the table to quiet everyone.
Hi, everyone. I thought it would be good if we met and talked over how we want to teach ourselves defense against the dark arts, because we need to learn it properly, not the rubbish Umbridge is doing.
Yeah.
Obviously, this will help us pass our owls, but more importantly, it gives us the ability to protect ourselves from Lord Voldemort.
Several people jump over or wince in fear at the name. Hermione takes a shuddering breath, looking exhilarated. She looks at Harry.
That's the first time you've said his name.
Hermione looks pleased.
How do we know you know who's really back?
Dumbledore believes he is.
Dumbledore believes him.
He nods in Harry's direction.
That's true, but I think we're drifting from the purpose of...
It's okay, Hermione.
He looks at the crowd.
I believe Voldemort's back because I fought him last year. Dumbledore's already told the school that. If you didn't believe him, you won't believe anyone.
There's a tense silence.
Well, anyway, I think that in order to learn properly, we'll need a teacher.
But we're all students. None of us has the experience to.
Someone here does.
Everyone looks at her. She is staring directly at Harry.
Me?
I, for one, would like to know why Potter's qualified and the rest of us aren't.
Well, he's only confronted you-know-who himself 4 times and lived to talk about it.
One of the portraits said you'd killed a basilisk in the Chamber of Secrets with the sword in Dumbledore's office.
Well, yeah, I did.
Blimey, Harry.
Half the crowd looks awestruck.
Wow.
Can't forget that he saved the Sorcerer's Stone from you-know-who in his first year.
The Patel sisters' eyes are wide with respect and astonishment.
And last year he got through the Triwizard Tournament.
There are mutters of agreement.
Not to mention he dueled with you-know-who all alone and he still couldn't kill you.
And you fought off those Dementors that attacked you this summer.
Hermione looks tremendously pleased.
Oh, all in favor of taking lessons from Harry?
He holds up a hand. Ron, Jenny, Fred, George, Neville, Luna, Dean, Lee, Katie, Elisa, Angelina, and Susan raise their hands. Then, after a moment, the rest raise theirs as well.
Where are we going to meet?
What about in a new classroom?
That might work. I'll look into that.
Okay, good.
He pulls a parchment out of a bag.
I think we should put our names down so we know who was here.
Suddenly, people look uncomfortable.
I don't know. If it were found, I mean, Umbridge wouldn't like that we're doing.
Honestly, Ernie, do you think I'd just leave it lying around? Besides, it's enchanted.
Ernie looks more comfortable. Fred and George eagerly sign, as do the rest. Even Cho's friend Marietta signs.
Also, what should we call ourselves?
What about the anti-Umbridge League?
We need something that doesn't give away what we're doing.
I think it should be Dumbledore's Army.
There is excited agreement. Harry smiles at her.
Dumbledore's Army it is then. The DA for short.
Fred and George stand, along with Lee.
We'll let you know when we're going to meet.
The meeting breaks up. Exterior Hogsmeade Day. Harry, Ron, and Hermione trudge back up towards the castle.
I think that went well.
Yeah.
And did you see Cho, Harry?
What about her?
Well, she couldn't keep her eyes off you, could she?
Harry gives a little smile. Interior Hogwarts hallway day. Harry, carrying a load of school books, walks alone down a stone hallway. Angelina comes running up to him.
Harry, you won't believe the Umbridge woman. This is too much.
What's she done now?
Follow me.
Interior Hogwarts hallway day. Harry and Angelina approach a large billboard surrounded by murmuring students. They push their way through. A large parchment hangs from the wall.
By order of the Hogwarts High Inquisitor, all students, organizations, societies, teams, groups, and clubs are henceforth disbanded. Permissions to reform must be approved by High Inquisitor Umbridge. No student organization can exist without the knowledge and approval of the High Inquisitor. Any student found to be part of an illegal organization will be expelled immediately.
Angelina is furious just looking at it again.
She refused to allow us to Gryffindor team. We had to go to Dumbledore to get her to allow it.
Harry is extremely angry.
Not only that, what about the DA?
Interior Gryffindor common room night. Harry is pacing in front of the fire. Hermione and Ron sit on chairs watching him.
This isn't a coincidence.
He looks at Ron and Hermione.
She knows.
She can't.
Look, We don't know how many people could have overheard our meeting and told her.
Somebody at the meeting could have blabbed to her.
No, they couldn't have. The parchment we all signed was enchanted, like I said. No one can betray the DA without us knowing.
Harry stops pacing and grins at Hermione.
What would we do without Hermione?
She beams at him. Hedwig flutters in the open window and collapses to the floor.
Hedwig.
She's hurt.
Hedwig hoots softly.
She doesn't look very good.
Harry, you'd better take her to Professor Grubby Plank. She'll know what to do.
Harry scoops Hedwig up and runs through the portrait hall. Interior Hogwarts hallway, night. Harry steps out of the portrait hall. McGonagal comes around the corner.
Potter! Where on earth do you think you're going at this time of the night?
It's Hedwig. I think she's been attacked.
What?
She steps closer and peers closely at the hurt owl.
Yes, I think you might be right, Potter. Where was she coming from?
London.
Well, give her to me. I'll run her down to Professor Grubblypink.
Harry hands Hedwig to her. She takes the owl carefully.
There you are.
She straightens and moves down the hall, then stops. She turns to look at Harry.
Bear in mind, Potter, that channels of communication in and out of Hogwarts are being watched, won't you?
Yes, Professor.
Good. Now off to bed.
She vanishes around the corner. Harry turns and goes back through the portrait hall. Interior Gryffindor common room, night. Harry steps back inside the common room. Harry and Ron have gone to bed. He is alone.
Mr. Harry Potter!
Dobby, what are you doing here?
Dobby is cleaning, sir.
You seem to want to say something more.
What is it, Dobby?
Dobby wishes he could help Harry Potter. Dobby has heard him muttering in his sleep.
Don't worry about it, Dobby, but I don't think you can help me.
Dobby's ears droop. Harry collects and stops. Sorry.
Actually, there's something you can do, Dobby.
Dobby brightens instantly.
I need a room where 28 people can practice defense against the dark arts without the teachers knowing, especially Professor Umbridge.
Dobby leaps into the air and claps his hands.
Dobby knows of the perfect place, Harry Potter. It is the room of requirement, sir. You can only use the room in times of great need. Whatever you need will be there for you, Harry Potter.
That's brilliant, Dobby.
Dobby looks pleased.
Dobby can show you now if you wish, Harry Potter.
Harry thinks for a moment.
Better not, Dobby. School is pretty intense right now. We'll do it in a few months before the
Exterior Hogwarts day. We glide over the landscape, the leaves gradually vanishing from the trees and snow begins to drift into sight as we pick up speed. We sail into the snowstorm over the Hogwarts grounds, past Hagrid's empty hut, and into the Quidditch stadium. Exterior Quidditch pitch day. Visibility is low. Players scatter everywhere.
And Slytherin is up 40-10. Alicia with the quaffle.
Alicia spins through the blizzard, trying desperately to see. Two shapes emerge from the snow. They are Crab and Goyle, the Slytherin beaters. Both of them take a swing at her. She twists completely around on a broom and the clubs swish harmlessly past. She pushes forward to the Slytherin goals and hurtles the quaffle, blocked by the Slytherin keeper. Below in the stands, there is a groan from the Gryffindor side. From the Slytherins, there is a chant.
A Weasley is sucking. A Weasley is sucking. He always puts the quaffle in. A Weasley is sucking.
Harry pulls up near to Ron, who is looking grimly sick to his stomach.
Just ignore them, Ron.
Ron does not acknowledge them. Several Slytherins in possession of the quaffle bear down on the Gryffindor goals. They throw the quaffle. Ron dives and misses. A loud gong sounds. Another groan from the Gryffindors.
Another 10 points to Slytherin. The score is now 50-10 in favor of Slytherin.
Malfoy pulls up on his broom near Ron as well.
Thank you, Weasley. You're definitely our best player.
He laughs. Just then, the snitch blasts past Malfoy. He takes off in pursuit. Harry rockets after him at top speed, ignoring the bite of the snow against his face. He and Malfoy give chase. Following the snitch at top speed, Malfoy is still far closer than Harry. Then the snitch banks sharply. Both Draco and Harry turn with it, though now Harry is pulled even with Draco. They are inches from the snitch. They reach with all of their might. Harry's hand inches out in front of Draco and closes around the snitch. Draco's fingers scrabble on the back of Harry's gloved hand. The crowd goes wild. Harry straightens, triumphant. Behind him, without warning, Grab emerges from the blizzard and cracks Harry across the back of the head with his beater's club. Harry slumps forward and nosedives into the pitch, rolling to a stop looking dazed. There is a groan of sympathy from the crowd. The other Gryffindors land and run to Harry.
Harry, are you all right?
He is helped to his feet by Fred and George.
Bet you love that, Potter. Saved Weasley's neck, didn't you?
The Gryffindors ignore him.
I've never seen a worse keeper. Maybe we should add some more verses to our little song about his filthy mother.
George tries to leap at Draco. Harry and Fred hold him back.
And his pathetic loser of a father, too.
Fred attempts to charge Draco, too. Other Gryffindors are restraining them now.
But then, you like the Weasleys, don't you? How can you stand the stink? Guess it reminds you of your own dear mother.
Harry turns and runs full out at Draco, who looks startled as Harry leaps at him, crushing his fist into Draco's jaw and knocking him to the ground. George breaks free of the Gryffindor. Harry leaps at Draco, hitting him again and again.
Shit. Impedimenta.
He blasts Harry and George with a spell, knocking them off of Malfoy. McGonagal storms onto the pitch, Gryffindor scarf flapping wildly in the wind. McGonagal. McGonagal.
What on earth do you two think you're doing?
Harry rolls his feet and goes for Malfoy again. Madam Hooch stands between them, her wand pointed directly at Harry.
Don't make me stupefy you, Potter.
Harry stops, breathing hard, glaring daggers at Malfoy, who is curling in a ball, bleeding and crying. McGonagall comes right up to Harry and grabs him hard by the elbow. He finally turns his attention to her. She is pale and grim-faced.
My office? Now?
Interior McGonagall's office, day. George and Harry stand in front of McGonagall's desk. She stands on the other side of it.
In all my 39 years at this school, I have never seen such a disgusting display.
Malfoy provoked it.
Of course he wanted to provoke you. He just lost.
She stares at both of them.
I cannot express in words the disappointment I feel right now.
The door opens and Umbridge steps into the room, smiling, sickly.
What is it, Dolores?
Umbridge?
The door opens and Umbridge steps into the room, smiling sickly.
What is it, Dolores?
Hold on.
Yes, can I help you? I'm in the middle of with a student.
Are we sure we're on page 79? I'm so sorry. I literally cannot find.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's page 79.
Ser inte den webben.
Okay. Because what I have at the bottom of page 79?
Like
No,
midway.
Middle.
Oh, there. Okay, sorry. I thought we were going back to the top of the scene. I apologize. I found it.
What is it, Dolores?
I thought you might need some additional authority in dealing with these two.
Well, you felt wrong. Now kindly remove yourself from my office.
She turns back to George and Harry.
Now, I don't care what Malfoy said. Your performance out there was shameful. 50 points from Gryffindor, and I'm giving you both a week's worth of detention.
I hardly think that's an adequate punishment for this.
She holds up a parchment.
Educational Decree 25. It gives me, as High Inquisitor, the power to give punishments and privileges and alter those given out to students by other members of the staff.
She turns to Harry and George.
So, I think a lifelong ban from playing Quidditch should be enough to do the trick for both of these. Oh, and this one's twin as well. He was going to attack Malfoy as well.
Harry and George are stunned.
Ban us for life?
Yes, indeed, Mr. Potter.
She moves towards them.
Ah, I'll take your brooms as well.
She confiscates the brooms too.
Well, have a wonderful day.
He sweeps from the office. Harry looks to McGonagal.
You've...
Hands are tied, Potter.
Interior Gryffindor common room, night. The atmosphere in the common room is somber. The Gryffindor team sits by itself, dejected and depressed.
I can't believe it. Three players banned for life in one day.
I'm gonna resign.
Harry is slumped low in a chair.
You can't.
I'm horrible. I should have never joined.
If you quit, we'll be out 4 players.
Ron looks miserable.
This is the worst day of my life.
Hermione is staring out of the window.
I know something that could cheer you up.
Hermione, give it up.
Hagrid's back.
Interior, Hagrid's hut, night. Harry, Ron, and Hermione have taken seats around the hut, at the table, and in chairs. Hagrid boils some water over the fire. His face is covered in cuts and bruises.
Hagrid, what happened to you?
I'm fine, I tell ya.
Come off it, Hagrid. We're not blind.
Was it because of the giants?
There is a silence.
Can't answer that, I'm afraid. Top secret, that is. Business of the Order.
We know you were looking for giants, Hagrid. Dumbledore said so last year.
Oh. Well, yeah, I was then. Went with Madame Maxim. Took us a month to get to their camp.
A month?
Of course. Can't do magic. Not with the Ministry phoning us all the way. Plus, giants aren't fond of wizards. Don't trust them.
So what did you do when you found them?
Waited till morning, and then marched right in.
Exterior, giant ballet, day. Hagrid and Madame Maxime marched into the camp, eyes fixed firmly on the Gurg. Hagrid holds a large branch of everlasting fire above his head. The Gurg sits some distance away, sitting on a large stone seat, surrounded by other giant servants. The giants stare at Hagrid and Maxime, flabbergasted. They slowly move aside for them to pass. Hagrid and Maxime bow before the Gurg.
We gave him a gift, just like Dumbledore said. Gave him a branch of Gubberthian fire, everlasting flame. Giants love magic. See, just not too fond of wizards. Nothing a giant loves better than magic.
The Gurg smiles and hoists the branch of fire into the air. The giants roar and yell around them. Sticking the branch to the ground, the Gurg beckons Hagrid and Maxime forward.
What happened then?
We sat down and had a talk. Well, mostly they listened good, but there was good signs. Well, they did till that night. That's when everything went wrong.
Hagrid and Maxime watch a great battle in the valley below them. They stand on the mountainside.
There were a coup. Next morning, there were a new chief.
Hagrid and Maxime walk back towards the new Gurg the next day. This Gurg is evil-looking and grinning at them nastily.
Went back to see what we could do with this new chief.
2 large bodyguards block the way to the new Gurg. They grab Hagrid. Maxime blasts them with spells from a wand. They drop Hagrid. There's an earth-shaking roar from all around them. Giants charge them from every direction. Maxime and Hagrid flee back up the mountain.
And then things got even worse. Death Eaters arrived, and the new chief were all happy to be seeing them.
Several Death Eaters, faces concealed behind their black cloaks, approach the new Gurg, who beckons them to speak.
We figured just 'cause some of the giants were favoring you know who, don't mean all of them were. The coup had driven the old chief supporters into some caves, so we went in after him.
Maxime and Hagrid walk into a dark cave, wands glowing.
You went into caves looking for giants.
We found enough, and they seemed interested at first. When the new chiefs lot raided the caves, twerked many survivors, and none of them wanted anything to do with us after that.
Interior Hagrid's hut night. There is silence.
So, no giants are coming?
Well, not right away. We brought our message, and I expect a fair few remembered after the end comes.
Interior room of requirement. Night. Harry strolls into the room of requirement, looking at the assembled group that makes up Dumbledore's army.
Glad to see all of you could find this place all right.
Hey, Harry, look at all this stuff.
Scattered around the room are many devices such as dark detectors and sneaker scopes.
Loads of defense against the dark arts equipment. Hopefully we'll be able to get to all of it before the end of the term.
He paces in front of them.
You need to understand something before we start. Though defending yourself from the dark arts has less to do with magical ability and more to do with thinking fast and a lot of luck, we'll be doing experiments tonight. Through hopefully we can move on to other things if we have time.
Oh, please. Professor Lockhart taught us that in our second year.
Lockhart didn't teach as much as prune himself.
Besides, it works. I used it against you-know-who last June. It saved my life.
Zacharias falls silent.
Right. Well, let's split into pairs and give it a go.
Interior room of requirement night. Harry strolls among the students amid shouts of Expelliarmus, checking everyone's progress. He reaches Neville and Ron, who are practicing together.
Expelliarmus.
Ron's wand flips from his hand across the room.
Well done, Neville.
He shouts down the others.
Look here, you lot. Neville's really got the hang of this one. Go ahead again.
Fred tosses Ron's wand to him. Neville swirls his...
Expelliarmus.
Ron's wand does it again.
I did it! I did it!
Harry claps him on the shoulder.
Never forget this spell, Neville. It could save your life someday.
He moves to the front of the room again.
Okay, everyone. We've done a lot today, and I've seen some great improvement. That's it for now. We'll meet back here same time next week.
People begin to drift out of the meeting. Harry goes about, straightening the room up. Interior Gryffindor boys dorm night. Harry lies in bed. He dreams again. Interior Department of Ministries night. We float along a dark corridor, inches from the floor. We come to another corridor and peer down it. It appears empty. A great python of a snake slithers down the empty corridor. It slowly makes its way past many doors until it reaches at last another larger door. Behind it, an invisibility cloak falls to the floor in a shimmer of silver. Mr. Weasley stands, drawing his wand. He fires a golden jinx at the snake. He misses. The snake strikes. Mr. Weasley screams. Interior Gryffindor boys dorm night. Harry yells at the top of his lungs, eyes tightly closed. He makes biting motions with his mouth. Snarling madly, a seizure takes him. He screams in rage and horror, his entire bed shaking with his thrashing. Interior Department of Mysteries night. The snake strikes Mr. Weasley again and again. Blood splatters against the walls and floor. Mr. Weasley screams again. Interior Gryffindor boys dorm night. Ron, Seamus, Dean, and Neville leap out of their beds. Harry screams again, an unearthly sound of horror, anguish, and bloodlust. Ron and Neville sprint to Harry's bed.
What's wrong with him?
Harry screams again. His eyes snap open and they are pure white, without pupils. He makes the biting motion again, thrashing wildly.
Give McGonagal, go!
Neville turns and runs out of the dorms. Interior Weasley home at night. Mrs. Weasley sits in a living room drinking a mug of tea. On the other side of the room stands the Weasley's clock. It chimes. She looks up and then stands, moving closer to it. Mr. Weasley's hand grinds over the hour labeled Moral Peril. The mug of tea shatters on the floor. Mrs. Weasley clutches at her mouth in dread and horror. Interior Department of Mysteries night. The snake strikes again. Mr. Weasley, eyes flicking everywhere and seeing nothing, staggers into the wall and falls to the ground, leaving a bloody smear to mark his descent. The snake abandons the door and slithers away at top speed. Interior Gryffindor boys dorm night. Harry still struggles madly.
Harry!
Harry blinks and his eyes are normal. He comes to himself, only to let out a shriek of burning agony. He clutches at his scar, eyes crossing and unable to focus. He rolls off the bed and onto the floor, where he writhes in abject pain. Neville returns with McGonagal.
Potter!
She runs to him, thrusting a candle into Neville's hands. She falls to her knees next to Harry and tries to touch him. Her hand touches his skin and he yelps as if burnt. She backs off. Harry vomits all over the floor. Taking a step back, McGonagal draws a wand, looking uncertain what she will do with it in any case. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, it stops. Harry slumps over, unmoving. McGonagal is at his side in an instant. She rolls him over. His eyes are closed.
Wake up, Potter. Wake up, please.
Harry's eyes open. He sits up, looking frantic.
Mr. Weasley's been attacked.
You dreamed this, Potter.
No, I saw it happen. I was there.
Ron is looking pale.
You're sure this happened, Potter?
Yes. We've got to do something or he will die.
We're going to see the headmaster, Potter. Weasley, you'd best come to...
Interior Dumbledore's office. Night. McGonagall opens the door leading to Dumbledore's office and leads Harry and Ron inside. Dumbledore looks up from where he is seated at his desk. Professor McGonagall and... Dumbledore does not look at Harry, even acknowledge his presence. What can I do for you?
Well, Potter has had some kind of nightmare.
It wasn't a nightmare. Well, I was asleep, but it wasn't a normal dream. It was, well, real. I saw, Mr. Weasley. He's been attacked by a giant snake.
Ron is looking very pale. How did you see this? How were you positioned when you saw it?
Oh, I was the snake. I saw it from the snake's perspective.
Is Arthur seriously injured?
Yes.
Dumbledore stands and looks up at the portraits of previous headmasters and headmistresses of Hogwarts. Two of them are watching the proceedings.
No.
You are listening.
Naturally.
Raise the alarm. We must make sure Arthur is found by the right people. Everard and Dillies move out of their frames and do not return. Many of our previous headmasters and mistresses have portraits in the other institutions, allowing them to move between them. He motions for all of them to sit. They sit. Dumbledore moves to Fox. Fox, we will need a warning. The phoenix vanishes in a blast of fire. Dumbledore sits back at his desk and pulls a silvery whirring instrument to him. It emits some smoke that forms itself into the shape of a serpent, then splits in two. The two serpents coil around each other. Naturally, but in essence divided. Harry and Ron exchange confused looks. Everard returns to his portrait. What news?
I shouted until someone came. They carried him up seconds ago. He doesn't look good, covered in blood.
Dillies returns to a portrait at this time.
Dumbledore, I've just seen them arrive at St. Mungo's. Apparently they're moments ago. Apparated there moments ago. He looked really bad.
Good. Minerva, the rest of the Weasleys will need to be awoken. She nods and departs. Dumbledore again turns to the portraits hanging on the wall. Phineas Black opens his eyes and stares at Dumbledore. Phineas, I need you to visit your other portrait. Tell Sirius what happened and that we are coming to stay for a while.
It's late, Dumbledore.
Dumbledore stares at him.
I'm going.
He vanishes. Dumbledore takes a black pot and taps it with his wand. Portus. McGonagall returns with Ginny, Fred, and George in tow.
Harry, what's happening?
Your father has been injured in the course of his work for the Order. He is alive and arrived at St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Maladies and Injuries only moments ago. He picks up the pot and steps around the desk. We, however, are going to Sirius's house until the morning. We're merely waiting for Phineas to return. A flash of flames appears over Fox's perch. A single feather floats to the ground. Fox is warning. Umbridge knows you're out of bed. Minerva, head her off. Tell her anything you can think of. McGonagal departs again. Phineas returns to his portrait.
He says he'd be delighted.
Dumbledore beckons everyone over to him. We're going by Portkey. They all grab the pot and vanish. Interior Grimmauld Place night. They reappear in the kitchen of Grimmauld Place. Sirius hurries in.
There you are.
He looks at Dumbledore, but the headmaster had already disapparated.
We've got to go to St. Mungo's.
No, you can't.
We can go where we please.
We can't go yet. It would look suspicious if you show up 15 minutes after Arthur's arrived because Harry's been seeing visions of things happening hundreds of miles from Hogwarts.
George, livid with rage and fear, shoves his face into Sirius's.
That's our father out there dying.
I can't let you leave. I'm sorry.
He slowly draws his wand, holding it loosely at his side. The point was not lost to anyone.
You don't even care. You wouldn't even understand.
Sirius stares at him incredulously.
I was part of the First Order. I lost my best friends to you-know-who.
His eyes flick to Harry.
He's all I have left of them. Believe me, I don't want Arthur to die. But there are some things worth dying for.
Fred and George look very much cowed by the haunted look in Sirius's eyes. Finally, they sink into chairs around the table. George puts his head in his hands. Fred simply stares at the wall. Ginny is weeping softly. Ron puts his arm around her. Harry sits away from them, by himself. Dissolve interior Grimmauld Place day. Fred and Ginny lay slumped in chairs, dozing. The rest are sitting silently. The front door opens and Mrs. Weasley bustles in. Fred and Ginny wake with a start.
Mom!
Interior entry hall day. Excuse me. The Weasleys get up and hug their mother all at once in the entry hall. Harry gets up and walks warily out into the hall. He stands back, watching as the Weasleys are reunited in the hall. Yet, Harry is forgotten in the background. He stands apart from them, looking on, unintuited to their grief. Finally, they separate.
Your father's alive. He's going to make it.
There is relief evident on all of their faces. Harry turns and leaves, re-entering the kitchen. Interior kitchen day. Harry sits down several plates, then looks at Sirius.
Sirius,
He stops Sirius. Sirius looks at him.
You can tell me, Harry.
When I saw the attack, well, I was the snake.
What?
I felt the fangs like they were mine. Saw through the snake's eyes like they were mine.
Sirius looks concerned.
I think I might be going mad.
There is a horrible silence. Sirius looks uncomfortable.
Nonsense. Just tired. You had a rough night.
But what if there's a snake inside me?
You told Dumbledore this? Then there's nothing to worry about.
Exterior London, day. Mrs. Weasley, Ron, Ginny, Fred, George, Moody, and Tonks walk up to a rundown storefront with a single mannequin in the display window. Tonks moves right up to the window.
We're here to see Arthur Weasley.
Mannequin beckons to them with its finger. Tonks steps into the glass and vanishes. The rest follow. Interior St. Mungo's day. They enter a crowded reception area packed with witches and wizards who have been damaged or injured in the course of their magical lives. Many move around wearing white robes with the insignia of a wand and bone crossed over each other. Mrs. Weasley marches very determinedly through the crowd.
This way, come on.
Interior St. Mungo's hallway, day. Moody and Tonks stop outside the door.
We'll wait outside at first, Molly. It should be family first.
Mrs. Weasley nods and pushes her children through the door. Harry holds back, but she beckons to him.
Don't be silly, Harry. You too.
And she ushered him inside. Interior ward, day. There are 3 patients in the ward. Arthur lies in the father's bed by the window, propped up on several pillows and reading the paper.
Hello, everyone.
Mrs. Weasley bends down and kisses Arthur.
How are you, dear?
I'm absolutely fine. Okay. If they could take the bandages off, I'd walk out here in a jiffy.
He hugs Jenny with his good arm.
How come they haven't taken them off then?
Oh, I stopped bleeding like mad. The snake had some strange poison in it. Keeps the wounds open, but they'll find a cure. Don't you doubt.
George leans in close.
What were you doing when it happened, Dad?
That's my own business.
You were guarding it, wouldn't you? This weapon thing.
That's enough.
She looks at Arthur.
Moody and Tonks are outside, Arthur. They'd like a word.
She looks at her children.
All of you, out, if you please.
They turn and leave. Mr. Weasley calls Harry back.
Harry, stay a moment.
Harry returns to the bed.
I never thanked you properly.
There's no need to.
But there is, Harry. If you hadn't had your vision, no one would have found me in time. So, thank you.
Harry smiles, then departs. Interior St. Mungo's hallway day. The door to the ward is closed. Ron is listening with his ear to the door. They lean close to the doors. Interior ward day.
We searched the whole floor, Arthur, but we couldn't find any snake. Why a snake anyways?
He probably sent it as a lookout. See what he's up against. That's the closest he's ever gotten to it. So Potter says he saw the whole thing. The whole thing.
Yes. Yes. You know Dumbledore. Seems like he's waiting for something like this to happen. When I spoke to him this morning, he seemed very worried about Harry.
He should be. I mean, if you know who is really possessing him.
Moody trails off. Interior St. Mungo's hallway day. Harry straightens and looks at the others huddled outside the door. They are staring at him in unmistakable fear. Harry looks away from them. There is a silence.
Hello.
They turn.
Professor Lockhart.
Lockhart looks puzzled.
Professor? Me? Did I really? Well, I expect I was hopeless at it.
He rubs his hands together briskly.
Now, I'll expect all of you will be wanting my autograph.
Sure.
Just then, a healer emerges from a double door nearby.
Ah, there you went, Gilderoy.
She comes up to them and gently takes his elbow.
He keeps wandering off, handing out autographs. Don't you know? It's a good sign toward recovering his memory, the poor dear.
Yeah, sorry about that, mate.
Lockhart peers at him.
Have we met? Yeah, it was my one that backfired on you.
Was it? What a coincidence.
She takes Lockhart back in through the double doors. Harry, Ron, and Hermione follow. Interior permanent ward. Day. The healer sits Lockhart down in a chair. There are others apportioned sections of the room.
This is our long-term resident ward for permanent spell damage. Well, I must go.
He bustles away.
Come along, Neville.
Harry and the others turn.
Hey, Neville.
Neville turns beet red and looks away. His grandmother looks at the three of them.
Friends of yours, Neville? Ah, yes, Harry Potter. Good to meet you, finally. And a Weasley?
She turns to Hermione.
And you must be Miss Granger. Neville has mentioned you.
Who are you visiting, Neville?
Mrs. Longbottom turns to Neville.
You haven't told them.
Told us what?
Neville's dear parents were tortured into insanity by you-know-who before he disappeared. Or, as you know, very well respected.
Just then, Alice Longbottom, Neville's mother, emerges from behind the apparition. She beckons tentatively to Neville, who goes to her. She gently, almost reverently, hands down a candy wrapper.
Another one, Alice. All right. Go on, Neville.
Neville is still staring at his mother, who smiles at him, then disappears again. Neville turns, locks eyes with Harry, and departs. As he goes, he slips the wrapper into his pocket as if it were his most treasured possession. Hermione and Ron watch him.
I never knew. Poor Neville.
Interior Grimmauld Place day. Mrs. Weasley, Harry, Jenny, Ron, Fred, George, Hermione, Moody, and Tonks walk into the entry hall of Grimmauld Place. Mrs. Weasley looks at Harry concernedly.
Are you all right, Harry dear? You look like you're going to be sick.
He doesn't answer, but marches up the stairs and shuts himself. Interior bedroom day. Harry begins to pack his trunk determinedly.
Running away, are we?
He turns to the portrait of Phineas.
I have to.
You know, I thought Gryffindors had to be brave.
I won't hurt anybody else.
I see. You are running away out of nobility. You know, that's why I hated teaching. Young people always think they know what's best, as if no one else could possibly understand things better.
Harry moves to a window and opens it, leaning out.
I brought a message from Dumbledore.
Harry stops and looks at it.
What is it?
Dumbledore says, stay where you are.
That's it. Stay while the grown-ups sort things out.
When in all of your life has listening to Dumbledore ever led you into trouble? Whatever his reasons, he has your best interests at heart, Potter.
Phineas moves off the portrait frame and vanishes.
Fine, go and tell Dumbledore thanks for nothing.
He tips his trunk over in anger and sits down on the bed. There is a knock at the door. Ginny walks in, looking determined.
Get out.
No.
Ginny, I'm dangerous. You can't be around me.
Did you forget that I've been possessed by you-know-who before?
Harry falls silent, looking cowed.
I forgot.
Lucky you. Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Can you remember everything you've done this year? There aren't any blank spots in your memory?
No, I don't think so.
Then you know who has never possessed you, Harry.
She sits down on the bed next to him.
I don't know what's going on with you right now, but possession's not one of them. You're not dangerous.
She smiles at him. Finally, he smiles back.
Thanks, Ginny.
Don't mention it.
She hops off the bed and departs the room. Interior kitchen day. Harry wanders into the kitchen and opens the refrigerator. Sirius enters.
Harry, have you seen Creature? I haven't seen him for days now.
Haven't seen him.
Oh well. Maybe he crawled up into the air ducts and died. Doesn't get my hopes up.
That door is shoved open and Snape enters.
Excellent. I'd like to have a word.
He marches over to the table and sits.
Sit, Potter.
You know I don't like people giving orders in my house.
How unfortunate for you. Now kindly get out. My instructions from Dumbledore are to talk with Potter alone.
I'm his godfather. I think I'll stay.
Snape curls his lip in anger, but keeps quiet.
Very well. Then I know how you like to pretend you're useful.
Sirius stiffens, but ignores the jab.
It's a headmaster's wish that I teach you occlumency, Potter.
What's that?
Snape sneers.
Occlumency is an ancient form of magic that allows you to defend your mind from external intrusion. We'll begin at 6 o'clock on Monday, Potter.
Snape stands.
Well, I'm not serious here. I don't have unlimited leisure time.
Just a second, Snape. If I hear you're using this to give Harry a hard time, you'll have me to answer to.
Snape sneers again.
How touching. That Potter is a career like his father. Criticism simply bounces off of him.
Sirius stands and grabs Snape by the shoulders and roughly shoves him into the wall. He glares at Snape.
I've warned you, Snivellus. Dumbledore may think you're reformed, but I know better.
Snape pushes him out of the way.
Touch me one more time, Black, and you won't touch anything again.
He sweeps back to the door and departs. Exterior Hogwarts day. We sail through another snowstorm back to Hogwarts, passing the grounds and sliding through an open window. Interior Hogwarts hallway day. Harry makes his way along the hallway. Suddenly, Cho comes around the corner. She skids to an abrupt halt, blushing slightly.
Hi, Harry.
Hi.
There is an awkward silence.
Bye then.
He starts to walk by.
Hey, Cho.
He turns to him.
Well, Valentine's Day is the same day as our Hogsmeade visit.
She blushes harder.
Well, would you like to, go with me?
Sure.
Cool.
He smiles at him and walks away. Interior Snape's office day. Harry enters Snape's office. Snape sits behind his desk, next to a pencil.
Sit, Potter.
Harry does so.
As you are well aware, I will be teaching you occupancy. The headmaster feels you should learn this form of magic to defend yourself against the Dark Lord, who is scared that legitimacy.
What's that, Professor?
Legitimacy is the ability to extract thoughts and feelings from others.
Voldemort can read minds.
As usual, you have suddenly out of a stone wall. Potter. The mind is not a book of which any page can be examined. The mind is complex and multi-layered.
So he could read our minds right now.
Eye contact is normally required for legitimacy to work. In your case, however, things are somewhat different. The scar has forged a connection between you and the Dark Lord. When your mind is most relaxed, such as during sleep, you receive the Dark Lord's thoughts and feelings. The headmaster believes that it is inadvisable for this to continue.
But hasn't it helped so far? I mean, it saved Mr. Weasley's life, didn't it?
Yes, it did, at the expense of our advantage. The connection between you was so powerful during your vision of the snake that Dark Lord became aware of it. Headmaster fears that he may try to use this to his advantage, to manipulate you through false visions.
Snape stands and pulls out his wand. Harry flinches ever so slightly, but Snape merely puts it to his head and draws a glowing string of memory from his head and drops it into the pin seat.
Wand out, Potter.
Harry draws his wand.
You may use any spell you can think of to try and repel me.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to break into your mind. Ligaments!
The spell hits Harry, who staggers backward, grimacing. Exterior Dursley's day. Harry clings to a tree branch as the dog ripper barks at him from the ground. The Dursleys laugh as they stand in their driveway. Interior Hogwarts Great Hall day. Harry sits under the sorting hat. Exterior the Great Lake. Night. Harry stands over Sirius, a Patronus hovering over him as hundreds of Dementors swarm overhead. Interior Snape's office. Day. Harry's face is contorted with rage.
No!
Spell fires from one. Snape dodges it. Gasping, Harry falls to his knees.
Well, you stopped me eventually. Ideally, you should repel me with your mind.
Harry climbs to his feet.
Clear your mind, Potter. Abandon your emotions. Legitimates!
Harry staggers again. Interior Dursley's home. Day. Uncle Vernon nails the letterbox closed. Interior Department of Mysteries. Day. Harry skids to a stop and looks down a dark hallway. Mr. Weasley stops as well and glances back at Harry.
Come on, Harry.
I've been there before.
Mr. Weasley looks nervous, then grabs Harry's robes and drags him along.
Now, Harry, I find that highly unlikely.
Interior Snape's office. Day. Snape lowers his wand, breaking the spell.
What was that?
Harry looks stunned.
I've just realized it.
Snape is staring at him, agitated.
Realize what, Potter?
Harry looks at Snape suddenly.
What's in the Department of Ministries, sir?
There's a stunned silence. Snape regards Harry with suspicion.
What did you say?
That corridor. I've been dreaming about it for months. It leads to the Department of Mysteries. I'm sure of it.
Snape comes around the desk. He's deathly quiet. Always a bad sign.
There are many things in the Department of Mysteries, Potter, none of which concern you.
There's a horrifying scream that echoes through the castle. Snape and Harry stare at the ceiling. Snape glances at Harry, then hefts his wand and sweeps from the office. Harry follows. Interior entry hall at night. There is a huge crowd of students standing at the top of the stairs, leading down into the entry hall. There's another unearthly wail. Harry pushes his way through the crowd until he can see. Trelawney stands at the bottom of the stairs, looking crazed and turning in circles, her wand out and clutched in her hand.
You cannot sack me!
I can do whatever I wish.
This is my home!
Umbridge is grinning evilly.
Not anymore.
She points at the door with a stealthy finger.
Now, remove yourself from this castle.
She will not be leaving. Behind Umbridge, the crowd parts slowly and Dumbledore moves down the steps.
I have the authority, Headmaster.
Oh, I agree with you, Professor Umbridge. You do have the power to dismiss my teachers. However, he looks at Trelawney, who stands alone in the entry hall, smiling at Dumbledore through her tears. You cannot send them from this castle. That is still my decision. Professor Trelawney will remain here. Umbridge turns to him, furious.
And what of her quarters when I appoint a new teacher?
Happily, that will not be necessary. I have found a successor for good Professor Trelawney already. As you know, Umbridge is looking mutants. The ministry can only appoint new teachers if I cannot find one. I think you will find him suitable enough. The great oaken doors leading to the ground swing open, revealing an ebony-skinned centaur. It is Firenze, who saved Harry in his first year. This is Firenze. Umbridge is thunderstruck. Interior library day. Harry, Ron, and Hermione are huddled around a table.
So you're saying this weapon you know who's after is in the Department of Mysteries?
It's got to be. It's got to be. It's Lovegood.
Sorry. That's got to be what Sergius Podmore was doing in the ministry when he was arrested.
Probably. Mr. Weasley was probably there when he was attacked too. That must be what the order is guarding.
But why the Department of Mysteries?
It makes perfect sense, Ron. It's got to be something that the ministry's been developing. Something top secret.
Harry nods in agreement. Hermione picks up a copy of the Daily Prophet grimly.
Look at this. There's been a mass escape from Azkaban.
Bloody hell!
Harry stares at the front page picture of 10 witches and wizards.
They're all Death Eaters.
Hermione nods fearfully.
Yes.
Harry grits his teeth.
Voldemort.
Dissolve interior Hogsmeade Day. The sun rises over Hogwarts as Harry, Ron, and Hermione stroll down the main street of Hogsmeade. Cho quickly finds Harry.
Hi, Harry.
Harry grins sheepishly at her, avoiding looking at Ron.
Have fun, Harry. Meet me in the Three Broomsticks after. There's something you need to do.
Okay.
He goes to Cho and they leave together. Interior Madame Pudderfoot's Day. Outside, it rains. Harry and Cho sit awkwardly opposite each other at a small table. Valentine's Day decorations across the aisles at every turn.
You know, Cedric and I came here last year, before.
Harry looks away and sees several couples kissing. He looks away.
I've been meaning to ask you for ages, but I mean...
Harry looks at her. She is beginning to tear up.
What?
Did Cedric say anything about me before he died?
Oh, no, there wasn't really much time.
Cho bursts into tears. Harry tries to console her.
Look, maybe we should talk about something else.
I thought you'd want to talk about it. I thought you'd understand.
She stands up so suddenly the table rattles. The tea shop has gone deathly still. Everyone watches them.
See you around, Harry.
She walks out. Harry stands and runs after her. Exterior Hogsmeade Day. Harry staggers into the rain, looking around frantically, but Cho has disappeared. Getting wetter by the minute, he gives up and slowly makes his way over to the Three Broomsticks. Interior, Three Broomsticks. He enters and sees Hermione. She's sitting in a booth with Luna and Rita Skeeter, a reporter. Harry sits down.
What's this all about?
That's what Little Miss Perfect was about to tell us.
Harry glances at Hermione.
Right. Well, I figured that with all of the negative press out about Harry, he should have a chance to defend himself. All of the details, what happened last summer, the truth about Sirius Black and Voldemort, not to mention the names of all the Death Eaters still on the loose.
Rita leans across the table.
The Prophet will never publish that. Goes against the public mood.
Well, it doesn't matter. We found a publisher for the article.
Who?
Luna looks away from the window.
My father. He's the editor of the Quibbler.
Rita
The
laughs.
Quibbler? You think people will take Harry Potter seriously if he's published in the Quibbler? It's nothing but a conspiracy theory, cock and bull story tabloid.
Some won't believe Harry, that's true. But every person we do convince is one more ally.
Rita shrugs and pulls her quill from a bag.
So, Harry, ready to tell the public the truth?
Yeah, I guess so.
Hermione sits back and sips a drink.
Fire away, Rita.
Exterior Hogwarts grounds day. The snow on the ground is melted. The sky is clear and the sun shines brightly. Spring has come. Interior Great Hall day. Harry, Ron, and Hermione sit at the Gryffindor table eating breakfast. An owl drops a letter on Harry's plate. Hermione opens it and pulls out a copy of the Quibbler. Harry's smiling face grins at them from the front cover.
Look, Harry, it's your article.
Then a dozen more owls drop letters on Harry. He covers his head as they rain around him.
What on earth?
Hermione beams at him.
Fan mail, Harry. Responses to this article.
And which article is that, dear?
Umbridge had appeared at their table, smiling, toad-like.
I have just published an article telling the real story about what happened last June.
Umbridge instantly turns an ugly shade of purple in her rage.
And where is this article?
Hermione hands her the Quibbler.
Right. I will confiscate this. Anyone found in possession of this magazine will be expelled.
He stalks off. Hermione giggles in triumph.
What?
She's done it to herself. Banning the article will only make people want to read it more.
Interior room of requirement, night. Harry stands before the DA again.
We've been doing so well, I thought we'd work on some defense blocking spells tonight.
Interior room of requirement, night. Wands wave and spells fly through the air. Harry paces through the students.
That was really good.
With a crack, Dobby appears.
Mr. Harry Potter!
He looks absolutely frantic. Harry turns to him.
What is it, Dobby?
House elf has gone quiet, clamping his hands over his mouth.
She...
He stopped, terrified.
Who, Dobby?
Dobby shakes his head.
Is it Umbridge?
Dobby nods. Harry looks up, horrified. Dobby forces his arm down and takes a breath.
She knows, Harry Potter! She's coming!
Harry opens the door with a wave of his wand.
Get out of here, now!
There's a mad rush to the door. Harry ushers them all out safely and exits. Interior Hogwarts hallway, night. Harry pelts up the hallway. He is hit in the back with a spell and falls to the ground. Malfoy leaps from behind a statue.
Gotcha, Potter. Over here, Professor. I've got one.
Umbridge hurries over.
It's him. Well done, Draco. On your feet, Potter. We're going to see the headmaster.
She turns to Draco.
Search everywhere for the others, Draco. Round them all up. Check everywhere. Bathrooms, the library, empty classrooms. We must find them.
Draco nods and hurries off. Interior Dumbledore's office, night. Umbridge shoves Harry into Dumbledore's office, which is filled with people. McGonagal, Cornelius Fudge, Kingsley Shacklebolt, another Auror, and Percy Weasley. You may be High Inquisitor of the school, Professor Umbridge, but kindly do not manhandle my students. Fudge looks pleased. He claps his hands and rubs them excitedly.
Well, 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 Mr. Potter. I expect you know why you're here.
Harry glances at Dumbledore. The headmaster shakes his head, ever so slightly.
No, really, no.
You don't? You haven't broken any school rules?
School rules? No.
Or ministerial decrees?
Not that I know of.
Umbridge opens the door again, leading Marietta, Cho's friend, into the room. She has been crying, and her face is covered in pimples forming the word sneak.
I'm afraid the poor girl is unable to speak, but I shall tell you what has transpired. Shortly after dinner, she came to me and said that if I went to the room of requirement, I would find an illegally formed student group. It was at that time that this hex took effect.
She gestures to space. Since
I received information some time ago that Potter and a number of students had met in Hogshead to start an illegal group.
I'm not sure that's true, Professor.
I'm sorry?
In point of fact, when young Potter met those students, it was not illegal.
But 2 days later, Educational Decree 24 was introduced.
Again, quite correct. However, I wonder if you have any evidence that proves this group has been meeting since then.
I have a witness right here.
Correct again. I must confess that I was, however, under the impression that this young girl only told you a meeting was going on tonight.
Let's ask her, shall we?
He turns to Marietta, who is staring at the wall.
You can shake your head for an answer, dear. Now, have there been more meetings?
Slowly, still staring at the wall, Marietta shakes her head.
What do you mean by shaking your head, girl?
I would think that she was saying there have been no other meetings. Would that be correct? She nods.
But what about Potter? He was the leader and has been.
Umbridge's astonishment, Marietta is shaking her head again.
Why are you shaking your head, girl?
It usually means no, Dolores.
Umbridge grabs Marietta by the cloak and shakes her roughly. Dumbledore stands and there is anger in his voice. He draws his wand and points it at Umbridge. Again, I cannot have you manhandling my students, Professor Umbridge. She laughs softly and lets Marietta go.
My apologies, Headmaster. I forgot myself.
Well, what about the meeting tonight?
Right, of course. Well, we proceeded down to the room and entered. We caught Potter just outside. But it doesn't matter. We found all of their names.
She pulls the roster list Hermione had made up from her pocket. Harry gasps at it in horror. Fudge gapes at it as well. He snatches it out of Umbridge's hands. He looks up, an expression of twisted delight on his face.
So, Dumbledore, you've been behind this whole thing.
He hands the paper to Dumbledore, who looks at it. He seems suddenly at a loss for words.
Dumbledore's army.
Dumbledore smiles pleasantly and spreads his hands widely. Well, Minister, you've caught me.
This has all been your doing. You've been recruiting students for your army.
Quite correct, Cornelius.
I knew it! I knew it! You've been plotting against me this whole time.
That's right.
This is too good to be true.
Harry turns to Dumbledore in horror.
Professor, no.
Quiet, Harry.
Yes, shut up, Potter. So, you'll be coming with us to the Ministry.
Yes. I was wondering when we'd hit that little snag.
I see no snag, Dumbledore.
But I do. You seem to be laboring under the delusion that I would come quietly.
Resisting arrest, now are you, Dumbledore?
Precisely. You see, I have absolutely no intention of going to Azkaban. Your next Kingsley slowly moves his hand towards his pocket. Don't be silly, Hawks. Leave the wand there. The man stops.
You would really take on two auras, Dolores and myself, Dumbledore?
Naturally. All of you did rather well on your spellwork at this school, but if you attempt to take me in by force, I'm afraid I shall have to hurt you. In one motion, all of them draw their wands. Harry dives for cover. Dumbledore is faster. There's an instant of blinding light as spells blast in all directions. A spell strikes Dumbledore's desk with a bang and explodes. Dust fills the room. There is a shout and some scuffling of feet, another bang, and silence. Harry blinks and stands as the dust settles. Dumbledore hasn't moved. Fudge, the Aura, Dolores, Kingsley, and Percy are all lying on the floor unconscious. Dumbledore's desk has been broken in half and all of the tables overturned. He moves swiftly to McGonagal, Harry, and Marietta. Are you all right? McGonagal is standing, dusting herself off.
Yes, we're fine. Oh, where would you go, Albus?
I'm not going into hiding. Fudge will soon regret removing me from Hogwarts. Harry moves to Dumbledore's side.
I'm so sorry, Professor.
Dumbledore smiles at him. It's fine. Now listen to me, Harry. Keep studying occlumency. Do everything Professor Snape tells you. He grips Harry's shoulder. Close your mind. You will understand in time. Fudge is stirring. Lay back down. They must not think we have had time to talk. They do so. He moves to Fox. Fudge opens his eyes. Dumbledore grabs onto Fox's tail and two vanish in a blast of fire.
Find him!
Umbridge, Percy, Kingsley, the Aura, and Fudge race from the office. McGonagall ushers Harry and Marietta out of the office. Interior Great Hall day. Harry sits next to Ron and Hermione. Umbridge stands up from the staff table holding a parchment.
By order of the Ministry of Magic, Dolores Jane Umbridge will replace Albus Dumbledore as head of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
She looks over them all smugly.
My first act as your new headmistress is to form an inquisitional squad led by Draco Malfoy. They will report directly to me about the goings-on in the halls of this school.
Harry glares at her.
Furthermore, our good caretaker, Mr. Filch, has requested that we reinstate the old punishments. I've decided that there is no reason we shouldn't.
Filch stands at the back of the hall, grinning like a kid at Christmas. Exterior Hogwarts courtyard day. Harry, Hermione, and Ron head towards the Hogwarts grounds. Ron is dressed in his Quidditch robes.
Are you sure you can't? Hagrid said it was important.
No way, Quidditch practice. If I don't show up, Angelina will go mad.
They part ways. Exterior Forbidden Forest day. Harry, Hermione, and Hagrid march through the Forbidden Forest.
Hagrid, we've been walking for a good hour.
Just up ahead here.
Could you tell us what it is, Hagrid, please?
All right. Well, I'm showing you this because that Umbridge woman put me on probation. I can't last much longer before I get sacked like Trelawney.
We won't let her.
Bah, it's not the end of the world. If I do, I'll go help Dumbledore. Great man. Anyway, I wouldn't tell you, except for that. I can't leave without making arrangements to see. I'll need all your help.
Of course we'll help.
Hagrid took a great sniff and clapped her on the back, causing her to stumble slightly.
Knew you'd say yes.
He pauses and glances at them.
Okay, real quiet like from here on.
They creep down the path until Hagrid straightens and smiles.
There we are.
There's a huge body lying on the ground before them. It is a giant.
Hagrid, I thought none of them wanted to come.
Hagrid looks uncomfortable.
None of them did, Hermione. I didn't have much really choice in the matter. I couldn't leave him.
Oh, why, Hagrid, why?
He's my brother.
There's silence in the forest.
Well, half-brother anyway. My mom had him before she died. I thought I could bring him back here and train him up a bit. Teach him a bit of manners.
Hermione is distraught. Harry is nervous. Hagrid moves towards his half-brother.
Here, I'll introduce you to Grop.
He tosses a rock at Grop. It bounces off his head. The giant awakes and slowly stands to his full 15-foot height.
You're right, Grop.
Grop gives a low roar.
Look what I brought you, Grumpy. 2 new friends and all. We have Harry Potter here, see? And over here is Hermie.
Grop stops roaring and simply looks at them. Then he reaches up towards Hermione.
Hermie!
Harry grabs her and pulls her behind a tree as the huge fists close around the air. Hagrid hits Grop with a large stick.
Bad Grumpy. Bad boy.
Grop roars in pain.
We don't attack our friends, Grumpy.
Grop roars again. Hagrid, Hermione, and Harry flee the scene.
See, you don't know no better.
Harry glares at him.
Anyway, all you need to do is go and talk to him. Give him a bit of company.
Suddenly, Hagrid stops and looks around. From the undergrowth, a large number of centaurs have appeared.
Oh, blimey.
Bane steps into the clearing.
Oh, we told you that you were no longer welcome in this place, Hagrid. You and that beast you brought from afar.
It's not up to you who comes and goes in this forest.
You stopped us from invoking our punishments on friends for becoming the servant of the humans at Hogwarts.
Stopped you from committing murder, you mean?
Our ways are not yours, Hagrid. And now you bring that monster here. Our patience with it wanes swiftly.
Well, you'll tolerate him as long as he's here.
The centaurs paw the ground in agitation.
We allow you to pass this time, Hagrid, because you have young with you. But the next time you enter this forest, your life is forfeit.
Centaurs vanish into the undergrowth again. Interior McGonagal's office day. Harry enters McGonagal's office. She sits behind a desk. Umbridge sits in the corner with a notepad.
Please sit, Potter.
He sits.
You're here to have a talk with me about your career thoughts, Potter. We do this so we can begin to aim your courses over the next 2 years to prepare you for that career.
Oh yeah, well, I did think about being an aura.
What? Interesting, Potter. You'll need top grades for that. Challenging career path, but not unrewarding. Now then, Potter, you'll need to concentrate on defense against the dark arts, potions, transfiguration, and charms to adequately prepare yourself for the general aura requirements. May I offer you a cough drop, Professor Umbridge?
No, thank you, Minerva. Actually, I was just wondering if Potter has the proper temperament to be an aura.
Were you indeed?
She turns back to Harry.
If you're serious in this ambition, Potter, I would recommend concentrating on bringing your potions and charms grades up before your owls. I dare say you've got enough time to apply yourself. Lord knows you've consistently done well in defense against the dark arts. Professor Lupin.
Excuse me, Minerva, but have you seen my note on Potter's current grades in my class?
Yes, indeed I have.
Then I think you will find that Potter's grades have been consistently poor this year.
You apparently misunderstand me. I meant that Potter has done well in every defense against the dark arts class taught by competent teachers.
She turns briskly back to Harry. Umbridge looks as though she cannot believe her ears, then flips a page on a notepad and scribbles furiously.
Now, assuming you've all passed your necessary classes, the Ministry will put you through a number of character and aptitude tests.
What's involved in them?
How you stand under pressure, your perseverance, your dedication, things of this nature.
Umbridge stands abruptly.
Harry Potter has no chance of ever becoming an aura.
McGonagal stands as well, her eyes locked with Harry's.
I will assist you in becoming an aura if that's the very last thing I do, Potter. I will coach you nightly in order to get the necessary grades.
Umbridge storms from the room.
This concludes our meeting, Potter.
She smiles at him. He smiles back.
Thanks, Professor.
You're welcome, Potter. Now hurry on or you'll be late for occlumency.
Interior Snape's office day. Harry sits down in front of Snape's desk.
Have you been practicing, Potter?
Yeah.
Well, we shall see, won't we?
Harry places his one tip to his head and extracts that same memory and places it into the pensieve. Just then, the door opens and Draco Malfoy steps in.
Excuse me, Professor. Professor Umbridge says she needs you right away.
What on earth for?
Well, sir, remember when Montague vanished over Christmas? She says she's turned up in the toilet on the 4th floor.
Any idea how he got there?
She's pretty confused, but I think he said something about a vanishing closet.
Snape stands irritably.
We'll pick up your remedial potions lesson up tomorrow, Potter.
Draco sniggers. They depart. Harry looks around for a moment, then stands and looks into the pensieve. He looks at the door. There is silence. He plunges his head into the pensieve and his body is sucked in. Exterior Hogwarts grounds day. Harry stands next to the Great Lake. Under a tree sits a young Sirius. Next to him are the equally young Lupin, Peter Pettigrew, and lastly, James Potter. James is playing with a snitch, letting it go and catching it again.
Get away, James.
James shrugs and does so.
I'm bored. Wish it was a full moon.
Lupin snorts.
Easy for you to say.
James nudges Sirius.
Did she cheer you up, Sirius? Look.
Sirius grins.
Nicholas.
Snape is walking by. The four of them stand and follow him.
All right there, Snivellus.
Snape turns in a flash, warned out. Sirius is faster, however.
Expelliarmus!
Snape's wand flies from his hand. He dives for it.
Impedimenta.
Snape stops moving, struggling against invisible ropes.
You just wait.
Sirius laughs.
Wait for what, Snivellus? You two have that greasy nose on us?
Several bystanders laugh. James raises his wand, turning to the bystanders.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Leave him alone, James Potter.
James turns. Harry does as well. It is Lily Evans, Harry's mother.
Another charity case, Lily.
What has he done to you?
Nothing. It's more the fact that he exists, you see.
The impediment curse wears off. Snape grabs his wand and turns. James whirls.
Simple.
Never corpus.
Snape was lifted into the air and dangled by an ankle. He struggled madly, his robe hanging from his arms and over his head.
Leave him alone, Potter.
James turns and smiles at her.
I will if you go off with me.
I wouldn't go out with you if it were a choice between you and a giant squid. Now let him down.
James shrugs and gestures with his wand. Snape falls to the ground. He tries to go for his wand again, but Sirius hexes him.
Locomotor mortis!
Lily draws a wand.
I said, leave him alone.
James slowly turns to regard her. The playful expression on his face has vanished.
Don't make me hex you, Lily.
Then let him go.
Fine.
He mutters the counter curse and Snape struggles to his feet again.
You're lucky Lily was here, Snivelus.
I don't need help from a mudblood like her.
James' eyes are blazing with anger. He points his wand, which is shaking in his hand from his rage, at Snape.
Apologize to her. Now!
Don't make him apologize. Honestly, you're as bad as he is.
James whirls on her.
I would never call you that.
She shakes her head.
You make me sick, Potter.
She turns and walks away.
Lily? Hey, Lily!
Harry watches her go. The adult Snape grabs Harry's arm roughly. Harry turns to him, horrified. Snape yanks on her arm and the memory dissolves around them. Interior Snape's office, day. There is a blast of light and Snape and Harry return to Snape's office. Snape is livid with rage. He is pale, his lips thin, he is shaking. He pulls Harry close with trembling fingers, glaring daggers at him.
Having fun, Potter.
Harry shakes his head, but Snape shakes him roughly. Fury etched in his every feature.
Been enjoying yourself?
No.
Amusing man, your father.
His lips are shaking, his teeth bared. He shakes Harry again, absolutely seething.
Sorry.
Snape picks Harry up off the floor and flings him away from him. Harry slams into a potions cabinet and falls to the ground as glass beakers and bottles shatter around him. Snape points a shaking finger at Harry.
You will repeat what you saw to no one.
Harry is already shaking his head.
No, of course not.
Snape picks up a jar of some fluid and hurtles it across his office. It shatters into the wall. Snape grabs Harry by the robe and hauls him to his feet, shoving him against the wall.
You had better not, Potter, or you'll experience a pain so horrible you wish you had never been born.
He pushes Harry away from him.
Now get out of my sight. Do not set foot in his office ever again.
Harry turns and runs. Interior Great Hall day. The whole school is gathered in the Great Hall. Professor McGonagal stands in front of the staff table.
Today begins your hour's exams. A number of ministry instructors are here to give them. Exams will take place for the next 2 weeks. Exams will be split into 2 parts, theory and practical application. I warn you that the most stringent and anti-cheating spells have been added to your exam papers. No student has successfully cheated on an owl in a century, though every year someone tries it. Naturally, cheating will not be suffered, and anyone caught will be expelled from Hogwarts.
Exterior Astronomy Tower, night. Harry and Ron stand on top of the astronomy tower, peering through telescopes into the night sky. Harry's telescope is propped on the parapet and he is leaning over it slightly. Below him, the doors to the Great Hall groan open. Golden light spills into the night and 6 shadows move forward into the darkness. Harry and Ron watch.
Oi, that's Umbridge down there.
Several other students begin to watch the proceedings taking place below. Harry looks panicked.
They're heading for Hagrid's.
Ron and Harry exchange nervous glances.
Eyes back to the sky, please.
Students ignore the professor. The 6 shadows approach the hut, silhouetted against the windows of it. They open the door and it closes.
20 minutes left on the exam, students.
Shadows pace past the windows to Hagrid's hut. Raised voices reach them. Then a sharp bang is heard, along with a flash of blinding light from within the cabin. The door bursts open and Hagrid stumbles out, clutching at his waist, followed by the other 6. The Six Shadows fire stun spells at Hagrid.
No.
Exterior Hogwarts grounds night. The red-colored spells simply impact with Hagrid and bounce off of him.
Be reasonable, Hagrid.
Hagrid yells incomprehensibly. Fang leaps from the open door onto Hollish, knocking the man over. Fang bounds over to Hagrid and leaps in front of him, taking a hex full in the chest and falls to the ground with a whine. Hagrid roars with enrage, seizes the one responsible and hurls him 10 feet through the air. The man lands hard and does not move. Professor McGonagal storms through the doors of the Great Hall and out into the night, fury written across her face. Exterior, Astronomy Tower night. Ron points to McGonagall.
Look!
Harry smiles.
McGonagall will sort this out.
Exterior Hogwarts grounds night. She marches towards them. Her face is illuminated every few moments by the red light of spells being fired.
How dare you! How dare you!
She breaks into a run.
Stop this immediately!
Firing continues.
Enough!
She draws her wand in a swift motion. Instantly, 4 of the attackers turn to her and fire their spells. Before she can even react, they slam into her. She is briefly illuminated in blood-red light and then is lifted from her feet and hurled backward 5 feet to slam into the ground. She does not move. Exterior Astronomy Tower night. Several students scream in terror. Professor Tofty covers her mouth.
Not even a warning.
Most of the students break for the doors leading back to the entry hall. Harry and Ron among them. Professor Tofty follows. Exterior Hogwarts grounds night. Hagrid seems to go mad with anger.
Cowards!
He leaps at the nearest attacker and cracks him across the jaw. The man falls to the ground. Hagrid moves on to the next, and then to the next.
Get him! Get him!
But Hagrid, dodging more stunning spells, hoists Fang onto his shoulders and flees down towards the forest. Exterior Hogwarts grounds night. Students and teachers spill from the entry hall out into the night, running for McGonagall. They surround her, several teachers leaning over her. She looks very pale and her eyes are closed. Others keep the students at a safe distance.
Get her to the hospital wing right away.
Professor Flitwick steps forward and levitates McGonagall into the air, floating her up the steps and into the school. They leave dozens of muttering students behind in the night. Interior Great Hall, day. The long tables in the Great Hall have been moved aside. In their place, hundreds of desks have been set up. It is at one of these that Harry now sits. Professor Marchbanks stands near the staff table.
Before we begin, I have an update on Professor McGonagall. She will be all right and is resting in the hospital wing.
Harry and Ron look encouraged.
You may now turn your papers over and begin.
Harry turns over his paper and stares at it. He begins to mark on it, scribbling answers. Interior Great Hall, day. Harry stares at the last page of his exam. He winces and feels his scar, shakes his head, bends over his paper again. Again, the scar twinges. Again, he winces. The Great Hall fades away. Interior Department of Mysteries, day. Harry moves down towards the door at the end of the corridor. The same white light glows around its edges as in his dreams. He pauses before it, then tries the handle. It opens. The light overwhelms him. Interior Hall of Prophecy, day. It dies abruptly. Harry stands in a huge room filled floor to ceiling with shelves. On each shelf there are many tiny golden orbs. Lord Voldemort grinning coldly at a man lying on the floor.
Can you reach it? Can you take it for me, Black?
Sirius, surrounded by Death Eaters, glares defiantly at Voldemort.
I would rather die.
Voldemort raises his wand. Sirius screams in agony, writhing on the floor of the dark chamber.
Oh, you will die, eventually. But there are hours, even days of pain awaiting you before then.
He releases Sirius, who slumps to the floor, panting for air.
I'm going to enjoy this, Black. I have you, and soon I shall have the weapon. And then not even your pathetic order can stand in my way.
Voldemort laughs, a horrible spine-chilling laugh. The room dissolves around Harry. Interior Great Hall, day. Harry falls out of his seat, clutching at his scar in agony. Professor Marchbanks hurries to Harry's side. He pulls Harry to his feet and escorts him out of the Great Hall. Interior Entry Hall, day. Professor Marchbanks looks at Harry, concern on his face.
Are you all right, Potter?
Harry shakes his head.
Pressure of exams. It happens. Take a breath. Maybe you'll be ready to go back in. Time is nearly up, but...
Harry is shaking his head.
No, I've done all I can.
Professor Marchbanks nods and returns to the Great Hall. He passes Ron and Hermione, who run up to Harry.
You alright?
Voldemort. He's got Sirius in the Department of Mysteries.
How do you know?
I just saw it.
He looks out at the Hogwarts grounds, then turns back to them.
How are we going to get there?
The Department of Mysteries?
We've got to do something.
Ron and Hermione exchange looks.
How'd Voldemort get into the Ministry of Magic without being seen? I mean, he and Sirius are the two most wanted wizards in the world.
Yeah, they can't just waltz into the Ministry of Magic.
It just seems so unlikely, Harry.
Harry grabs her robes and glares at her.
I won't let Sirius die.
Just then, Jenny, Luna, Fred, and George round the corner.
I'm coming. We heard Harry yelling. What's up?
Voldemort's broken into the Department of Mysteries. He's got Sirius there. He could already have the weapon.
Think, Harry. Voldemort knows you. He knows you'd rush off to save Sirius.
There isn't anyone else, Hermione. Everyone from the Order is gone.
Anything we can do to help?
No, there isn't.
He crosses her arms, looking slightly hurt.
Yes, they can, Harry.
How?
Before we do anything, we need to establish that Sirius really isn't at headquarters, which means we'll need to break into Umbridge's office.
She smiles and glances at Fred and George.
For that, we'll need a really good distraction.
Fred and George grin.
Right, you are, Hermione. Think we can whip something up, George? Might be able to. Just give us a few seconds.
Mind you, it's got to be really good.
Not to worry, Hermione. We've got something that will outdo everything else we've done here combined. It's been too quiet around here anyway. Time we did some real damage to this place.
They lean close to each other and begin whispering together in excited voices.
We'll also need to keep everyone away from her office.
Ginny brightens.
We can do that. Me and Luna will guard the hallway.
Harry smiles at them.
We'll probably only manage 5 minutes or so.
That's all we'll need.
Fred and George straighten.
Right. You've got 10 minutes to get to Umbridge's office, and whatever you do, stay away from the astronomy tower for the next couple of hours. Unless they spread, in which case I'd get out of the castle for a while.
They leave. Hermione turns to Harry.
Break out your invisibility cloak, Harry.
Interior Hogwarts hallway day. Ginny and Luna have taken up positions outside Umbridge's office at the ends of the hall on either side. Suddenly there is a bang like a cannon has gone off, and the whole castle shakes. Dust drifts from the ceiling. Umbridge stumbles from her office looking up at the ceiling. Filch tears around the corner.
Professor, it's those Weasley twins. They set something off in the astronomy tower.
Umbridge smiles twistedly.
Ready to try out the old punishments again?
Had this coming for a long time.
Dart around the corner. A second later, the door to Umbridge's office swings open and closed. Interior Umbridge's office day. Harry and Hermione drop the invisibility cloak. Harry races to the fireplace, snatching up a handful of flue powder. He tosses it into the fire.
Grimmauld Place.
The fire turns bright green. Harry sticks his head into the fire. Interior Grimmauld Place day. Harry's head appears in the kitchen. It is empty.
Sirius, are you here?
Interior Astronomy Tower day. Umbridge and Filch race around the corner and stop dead. There's a dragon made of fireworks sweeping through the hallway. Umbridge draws a wand and tries to stop it. The spell explodes harmless against the firework dragon, and it splits into a dozen dragons which fly down different corridors. They break into a run after the closest one and vanish down a hallway. Fred and George step out from behind a statue, laughing.
That was worth it.
Filch steps back around the corner, grinning evilly.
I've got you now.
Fred and George break into a run. Filch follows along with Umbridge. Interior Hogwarts hallway day. Fred and George run full out down this hallway. Draco and the Inquisitional squad comes around the corner ahead. Fred and George peel around, returning the way they had come, but Filch and Umbridge block that way off. They close in on the Weasley twins. Fred nods at George. George pulls a nasty-looking device from his pocket and drops it on the floor. It explodes in a flash of light. Everyone covers their eyes. When it clears, there's a huge swamp in the middle of the hall, and the Weasleys are standing well beyond Umbridge and the squad.
Thank you for playing, one and all. And now, we've got to go.
They turn and vanish down another hallway. Interior Grimmauld Place Day. Harry continues to shout.
Sirius, Lupin, hello?
What's this? The Potter boy in the fire?
Creature comes into view of the fireplace.
Creature, where's Sirius?
Master went out.
Interior Entry Hall Day. Fred and George skid to a stop in the entry hall near the great doors leading outside. From every direction, Inquisitional squad members close in on them. Behind them, students and teachers pour into the entry hall, beaming, and not appearing the least bit afraid. Fred and George wave to the people in the crowd.
So, turning a hallway into a swamp is funny, is it?
Fairly amusing, yeah.
Well, now you're going to learn what happens to wrongdoers in my school.
Filch pulls out a long, evil-looking black whip, smiling.
This was never your school. Hogwarts is Dumbledore's school.
There's a loud cheer from the students filling the hall. Umbridge looks around, livid with rage.
Well, now you're going to get your punishments right here in front of the whole school.
Snorts.
You know, I don't think we are. George, I think we've outgrown full-time education. Wouldn't you agree? Completely, Fred. Time to enter the real world? Definitely.
Together, they raise their wands.
Accio brooms!
Interior, Umbridge's office day. Hermione shrieks as Fred and George's brooms rip themselves from the wall and fly out the door. Interior, entry hall day. The brooms speed to Fred and George. They leap on them. Draco and some others from the Inquisitional squad charge them. Fred and George kick off from the ground and into the air.
We won't be seeing you. Yeah, don't bother writing.
They wave the wands and the great doors open, revealing a beautiful sunset over the Forbidden Forest.
Be sure to visit us at our new premises on Diagon Alley.
And they dive on their brooms, sailing out the doors and into the beautiful sunset. Interior Grimmauld Place. Harry glares at Creature.
You know where he is, don't you?
Master does not tell Creature where he goes.
But you know.
Creature grins horribly.
Master will never return from the Department of Ministries.
Harry gapes. Creature cackles in his nasty way and scampers on it. A stubby hand appears on the fire over Harry's head and grabs his hair, yanking him back. Both head and hand vanish from the fireplace. Interior Umbridge's office day. Umbridge throws Harry to the floor.
You think you could simply walk into my office without me knowing about it? Foolish boy.
Harry looks around the room. Malfoy leans against a windowsill. Hermione, Ginny, Luna, Ron, and Neville are under guard by the Inquisitional squad, their wands piled on the floor. Umbridge draws a wand and waves it at Harry.
After your wand.
Harry's wand flips from his pocket to Umbridge's hand.
It's me. Who were you trying to contact?
It's none of your business.
Draco, would you please fetch Professor Snape, please?
Draco leads. Umbridge smiles sickeningly at Harry.
Very well, Potter. I've been patient enough with you.
Draco returns with Snape.
You wish to see me? You wish to see me, Umbridge?
Muted.
Umbridge. Sorry, we're trying to put the kid to bed. I've just caught Potter trying to communicate with someone in my fire. I need some truth serum.
Well, it appears that I cannot help you. I have none.
He turns to leave. Harry looks at him desperately.
He's got Padfoot at the place. It's hidden.
What? What does that mean?
Potter, if I want nonsense shouted at me, I shall inform you.
He sweeps from the office. Umbridge is enraged.
We've played nicely, Potter. You've leave me no choice.
She draws her wand, moving menacingly at Harry.
You could have saved me a lot of trouble if those Dementors I sent to your house had finished you off.
You sent the Dementors?
course I did. Someone had to act.
He points a wand at Harry's chest.
Curse you!
Harry screams as the curse washes over him. He slumps to the ground, shaking wildly.
No, please stop!
Umbridge looks pleased and turns to Hermione.
Well, well.
Hermione, no.
We have to tell her, Harry.
I would rather die.
Shut up, Potter. Now talk, you silly girl. Who were you talking to?
We were trying to find Professor Dumbledore. We had to tell him.
Tell him?
That it's ready. The weapon.
Umbridge's eyes are shining with eagerness. She smiles at Hermione.
You and Mr. Potter will take me to it.
Interior Forbidden Forest day. Umbridge, Harry, and Hermione move through the forest.
Much further, is it?
Oh, yes. It's very well hidden.
They wander around for a while in silence. An arrow lands in the ground next to them. They stop as about 50 centaurs emerge once again from the underbrush.
What are you doing in our forest?
Your forest? This forest belongs to the Ministry of Magic.
The centaurs move closer.
Stay back, you beasts.
There are howls of rage from the ranks of centaurs. Many knock and draw their bows.
You cannot attack me. Any attack on a wizard by a half-breed.
Don't call them that.
Roars in anger.
You dare to insult us?
Umbridge points a wand at him, though it is shaking in her hands.
Come here closer.
McGonagal rears up on his hind legs and beats his chest.
Incarcerus.
Ropes fly from a wand and wrap themselves around McGonagal and the centaurs charge Umbridge. Harry grabs Hermione and they leap behind a tree. They can hear Umbridge scream as the centaurs surround her.
Ingrates! Animals! Filthy half-bloods!
There's blast like a gunshot and Umbridge screams again. Harry and Hermione are grabbed by two centaurs.
What of these two?
They have been here with Hagrid. They have heard the warnings and disobeyed. They must suffer the consequences.
Several trees to the left are torn from the ground and tossed aside like twigs. There stands Grupp. The centaurs stop dead in their tracks. Grupp roars. Interior Umbridge's office day. Draco paces in front of Ron, Ginny, Luna, and Neville, smiling.
God, I can't wait to see all the Weasleys have been expelled. Your stench has been fouling the castle for far too long.
Ron glares at him.
Shut up, Malfoy.
Draco smiles and punches Ron in the gut. He doubles over.
That's for speaking to me. You know, you Weasleys are just as bad as mudbloods.
Ron has fallen near the pile of wands on the floor. Draco ignores him and sneers at Ginny.
You know, Weasley, it's really too bad Potter saved you from the Chamber of Secrets.
Ginny struggles against Crabbe, who is restraining her. Ron snatches his wand.
Stupefy!
Crabbe falls over. Ginny leaps at Draco, who is knocked to the ground. Looney calmly kicks her restrainer in the shins. Neville slips out of the stranglehold he'd been in and snatches up his wand. Goyle waves his wand, but Neville is faster.
Expelliarmus!
The wand flies away. Ginny rolls away from Draco, scooping up a wand. She waves it at him, and he's blasted backward into the wall. He slumps to the floor. They exit the office. Interior Forbidden Forest. There is silence as they all stare at Grupp.
Hagrid!
There is another silence. Grupp sees Harry and Hermione.
Hermione, what Hagrid?
And the centaurs raise their bows to point at the giant.
Oh, help us!
Grupp roars again and beats his chest.
Grupp, save Hermione!
He reaches up for them. The centaurs loose their arrows. They pepper Grupp across the face and chest. He roars in agony and begins stomping on the ground as if trying to squash the centaurs, who scatter. Harry grabs Hermione's hand and drags her away from the fight. As they depart, they hear Grupp one last time.
Grupp want Hagrid!
Harry and Hermione reach the edge of the forest. They stop to catch their breath.
Great plan, Hermione.
I thought it worked out rather nicely.
What are we supposed to do now?
That's just what we were wondering.
Ron, Ginny, Luna, and Neville appear from around Hagrid's hut. Harry and Hermione look surprised.
So, how do we get to the Ministry?
He tosses Harry and Hermione their wands.
I'd imagine we should fly.
We've got no brooms. We still got no brooms. Still no brooms. No brooms.
Hold on.
There are other ways to fly.
He nods in the direction of the forest.
I mean, they can fly, and they're very good at finding places you need to go.
Harry turns around and sees 3 Thestrals watching them.
Who are those? What are those?
What a what?
He looks right at them and doesn't see them.
There's nothing there, Harry.
Yes, there is. They're called Thestrals. You can't see them unless you've seen someone die.
Neville is quiet. Finally, he looks up.
I can see them too.
Harry claps his hands.
All right then. Get on one and we'll be off.
And what about those of us who can't see them?
Luna comes over to them.
I'll show you.
Interior Britain night. The sun has set behind the mountains in the distance. Harry and Ginny, Ron and Hermione and Luna and Neville are each paired on one Thestral as they fly over the British landscape towards London. The Thestrals dive. Hermione gives a shriek of surprise as they swoop down closer to the lights of London. Interior London night. They soar between buildings and finally sit down in front of a telephone booth. Ron jumps off of the Thestral shakily.
Never again.
What now, Harry?
Harry leads the way to the telephone booth. He opens the door and steps in. The rest cram inside with him. Interior Ministry of Magic night. The lift grinds to a halt and the doors swing open. Harry and the others step out of the receptionist area with a golden fountain. The place is deathly quiet and completely deserted. They fan out, wands at the ready. Harry waits a moment.
All right, come on.
They head past the fountain and up the steps into the Ministry of Magic. Interior lift night. This larger lift clinks downward slowly. Finally, it grinds to a halt.
Department of Mysteries.
The doors open and Harry leads the others out. This department, too, is abandoned.
Where is everyone?
The ministry closed a half hour ago. I expect they all went home.
Harry nods grimly.
That's how Voldemort got in unnoticed.
They walk until they reach the hallway from Harry's dreams.
That's it, come on.
They walk until they make their way down the long hall until they reach the door at the end of the hall. Only it does not glow. Harry tries the handle. It swings open.
Stay close.
He steps into the next room. Interior room of doors, night. This room is large and circular. It is filled with identical doors all the way around. It is illuminated by blue-flamed candles. After Neville enters the room, the doors swing shut with an echoing bang.
Now where?
Harry looks around, confused.
I don't understand. In my dream, the doors weren't identical.
Well, let's try a few.
Harry nods.
Yeah, I'll know the way when I see it.
He goes to the first door and he sees and opens the door. He steps inside. The others follow. Interior room of the Veil. Harry opens the door and enters. The rest follow. The room is like an upside-down ziggurat with huge steps leading to the base of the pit. On the lowest level rests a dark grey veil that flutters as if there were a breeze. Soft whispers fill the room.
Who's there?
He clambers down to the veil and stares hard at it. The whispers intensify. Harry looks around the room.
Serious?
There's no one here, Harry. This isn't the right room.
Does anyone else hear that?
I do. It's coming from the veil.
They look at it. It flutters menacingly, though there is no wind. Harry moves closer to it, slowly.
Harry?
His eyes are locked on the veil. He walks closer.
There are people in there.
What do you mean, people?
Harry, I think we should leave.
Harry reaches out his wand towards the veil. Hermione comes up behind Harry and grabs his arm. He tries to pull away from her, eyes still locked on the veil. The whispers have intensified into harsh moans as Harry is only feet away from the veil.
Harry, we're here for Sirius, remember?
Harry stops. He blinks and drops his wand.
Sirius. Yeah.
She gently leads him away from the veil. The moans have returned to whispers once again, muttering angrily as they depart. Interior room of doors, night. They return to the room of doors. Hermione draws a flaming X over the door they just closed. Harry moves to the next one. It is locked. He raises his wand.
Aloha Mora.
It remains closed.
Whatever's in there, the ministry sure doesn't want anyone getting into it.
He moves to the next door and opens it, stepping inside. Interior clock room, night. They enter the clock room. Every surface is covered in clocks.
This is it. Come on.
He opens the door and charges through. Interior hall of prophecy, night. Harry and the others spill into the hall of prophecy and stop. Harry glances around. They grip the wands tightly. The room is gigantic. Being over 50 feet high and incredibly long, there are rows and rows of shelves. On every shelf are dozens of dusty golden orbs. The room is lit by more blue flamed candles.
He's in here somewhere.
He leads them down the center aisle, peering down each row. He turns down one row, leading them to the end. This end opens out into another wide aisle. The row is empty. He looks around in confusion.
I don't think Sirius is here.
Ron stares at one of the orbs.
Harry, have you seen this?
Harry looks over his shoulder.
It's got your name on it.
Sure enough, there was a golden orb resting on the shelf with the label SPT to APWBD, the Dark Lord and Harry Potter. Harry reaches out for it.
What's my name doing here?
Don't touch it, Harry.
Why not?
Harry grabs it.
Why not?
Yeah, Harry, don't.
He looks at Neville. It was very pale.
It's got my name on it.
He takes it off the shelf and looks at it.
I warned you before that one day you would come to a sticky end, Potter.
Lucius Malfoy emerges from the shadows, cloaked all in black. 24 other Death Eaters emerge around him. Harry and the others are surrounded and outnumbered.
Where's Sirius?
Lucius and several other Death Eaters laugh.
We don't have him, if that's what you mean.
Harry is stunned.
You never did you? It was all just a trick.
The Dark Lord knows your weakness for heroics, Potter. All it took was a little nudge to get you here.
Lucius reaches out his wand. Lucius reaches out his hand, palm up.
Now, give me the prophecy.
What prophecy?
Lucius points at the golden orb.
That prophecy. Now hand it over, or we'll have to use our wands on you.
Harry raises his wand at the same time that Ginny, Neville, Hermione, Ron, and Luna raise theirs.
Go ahead.
Lucius regards him coldly.
Very brave of you, Potter. Are you foolish?
Come and find out.
Lucius doesn't move.
Really, Potter? You expect to defeat all of us with your little school friends. Now hand it over, and they don't have to die here.
One of the Death Eaters moves forward, throwing back her hood. It is Bellatrix Lestrange.
Oh, I haven't escaped from Azkaban for this.
She raises her wand. Lucius forces her arm down.
No! If the prophecy is smashed!
He stops and turns back to Harry, but Bellatrix turns to several other Death Eaters.
Take the youngest girl. We'll see how committed Potter is as we torture her.
Ron, Hermione, Luna, and Neville close in around Ginny. Harry steps in front of Ginny, wand out and aimed at Bellatrix's chest. He holds the prophecy in his other hand.
You even tried to take her and I'll smash this thing.
He tosses the prophecy casually into the air and catches it again.
So what kind of prophecy are we talking about here?
Surely you jest, Potter.
Not really. How come Voldemort wants it?
You dare to speak the Dark Lord's name.
Who? Voldemort. Oh yeah, I dare Voldemort.
Silence! How dare you utter that name from your half-blood mouth?
Hey, did you know Voldemort's a half-blood too?
Bella raises her wand to strike, but Malfoy stops her again.
Control yourself, Bellatrix.
What's so special about this prophecy anyway?
Bella shrieks with laughter.
Dumbledore never told you the reason you bear that scar hidden here.
Harry looks as if slapped. He is so surprised.
What?
Lucius and the Death Eaters laugh.
When I give the signal, blast the shelves.
Hermione and Ron nod grimly.
So that's That's what took you so long. We wondered.
But why did he need me to take it?
Only a person for whom the prophecy was made can remove it from itself, Potter. And the Dark Lord certainly couldn't get it himself.
Harry is angry.
So he used me to get his dirty work, did he?
Precisely, Potter.
Now!
No less than 6 wands fire into the shelves at once. The Death Eaters cover their faces as debris covers them.
Run.
Dust fills the air. Entire shelves fall crashing to the ground. Raining glass shards and golden orbs, the students break and run for the door. Malfoy grabs Harry by the shoulder. Hermione waves her wand at him.
Stupefy!
Malfoy is blasted backward. Harry and Hermione run after the others. Spells explode around them.
Stop them!
Harry is the last through the door. Interior cloakroom night. Hermione slams the door shut and points her wand at it.
Colopatoris!
The door seals itself. Harry looks around. Only Hermione and Neville are still with him.
Where'd the rest go?
Hermione looks around.
Harry, they went the wrong way!
They run after Ron, Ginny, and Luna. Just then the door blasts off its hinges. Harry, Hermione, and Neville dive underneath several desks. Death Eaters enter the room, slowly moving between the clocks and desks.
They might have gone into the hall.
Check under the desks.
Harry leaps up from under the desk.
Stupefy.
A jet of red light hits one of the Death Eaters in the chest. He's knocked backward into the wall. Hermione jumps from under her desk and runs for the exit. Bellatrix sees her and raises her wand.
Avada!
Neville emerges from beneath his desk.
Expelliarmus!
Bella's wand flies from her fingers. Harry finishes her off.
Stupefy.
Bellatrix is struck with the same red light and falls to the ground. There is a yell from the next room.
Ron.
Can you get him in yet?
The spell blasts Harry, Hermione, and Neville backward. Neville flies over a desk. Hermione strikes a bookshelf and is nearly buried under the falling books. And Harry strikes the wall.
We've got him.
Silencio! Stupefy!
The Death Eater falls silent and then to the ground. Harry staggers to his feet, dazed.
Petrificus totalis.
The second Death Eater falls to the ground and cannot move. The mute Death Eater attacks Hermione, making a slashing movement with his wand. Purple flame blasts from the wand and slashes Hermione across the chest. Her eyes go wide and she falls to the ground.
Neville?
Stupefy.
The Death Eater falls over.
Hermione.
He runs to her. She appears to be sleeping.
Please don't be dead. Please don't be dead.
He shakes her.
Hermione, wake up.
Neville runs over.
What did it do to her?
Harry shakes his head. Neville feels her wrist.
She's alive, Harry. There's a pulse.
Harry sighs in relief.
Can we carry her?
I'll do it. You're better at fighting.
He hoists Hermione up on his back. They move on to the next room. Interior room of doors. Harry and Neville, still carrying Hermione, re-emerge into the circular room of doors. Hermione's X's have faded from the walls.
Where did we go?
I don't know.
Sorry. A door opens and Luna and Ginny emerge, helping Ron walk between them.
What happened?
I think my ankle's broken, and somebody hit Ron with a weird spell.
Ron laughs strangely.
Hi, Harry. You look funny.
He laughs again. Ginny's legs go, and both she and Ron fall to the ground. Harry is at Ginny's side, looking concerned. She is breathing very hard.
They hit her with something funny too.
Harry straightens.
We need to get out of here. Luna, can you help Ginny?
Luna moves to her side. Another door opens and 5 Death Eaters emerge.
There they are.
Stunning spells rain all around them. The wounded group heads for the nearest door. Luna is blasted off her feet by a stunning spell. She and Ginny tumble to the floor. Harry has no choice but to keep running. The next stunning spell hits Neville in the back. He falls to the ground, Hermione rolling away from him. Interior room of the Veil. Harry and Ron stagger into the room of the Veil. Just as they entered, Ron is hit and falls. Harry slips and tumbles down the bottom of the chamber. He comes to the rest of the dais of the Veil. Doors all around him burst open and Death Eaters enter, climbing down to surround him from a safe distance. Harry staggers up onto the dais, his wand held weakly in his hand. Blood trickles out of his mouth and down his chin. Malfoy shoves his way towards Harry.
The race is run, Potter. Hand it over.
Harry glances around frantically.
Let my friends go, and I will.
Bellatrix and several other Death Eaters drag his friends into the chamber.
You are not in a position to negotiate.
Neville struggles against the Death Eater, holding him.
Don't do it, Harry. Don't.
Stop, Neville.
Bellatrix looks at Neville.
Neville? Neville Longbottom?
She laughs in glee.
Oh, my dear boy. I paid your parents a visit a long time ago. It's such a time.
You put them in St. Mungo's.
Bellatrix beams at him.
So, Potter, give us the prophecy, or I'll see how long it takes to crack Longbottom like his parents.
Harry is desperate.
Don't give it to him, Harry.
Bellatrix points her wand at him.
Crucio.
Neville howls in pain, curling up in a ball and screaming at the top of his lungs. The doors at the top of the chamber explode off their hinges. Everything stops as Lupin, Sirius, Moody, Tonks, and Kingsley. They blast spells at the Death Eater. Malfoy moves to attack, but Tonks disarms him. Harry leaps off of the dice, landing next to Neville.
Are you all right? Neville, are you all right?
Yeah.
He and Harry begin making their way away from the fighting. A man grabs Harry from behind, his large, sweaty arm around Harry's throat.
Give me the prophecy.
Neville leaps up upon his back and hits him in the face. Harry elbows him in the ribs. The man falls away. As he falls, he strikes Harry's hand by accident. The prophecy flies from his hand. Malfoy sees it. He raises his wand. Sirius leaps into him. Both men fall the rest of the way to the lowest level of the room, landing hard. The prophecy bounces off a step, flips down to the next level, and shatters against the stone. A ghostly version of Professor Trelawney appears over the shattered golden orb, speaks something which cannot be heard over the fight, and dissolves away. Harry and Neville seem frozen, staring at the broken pieces of the orb. Sirius gets to his feet and sprints to Harry and Neville.
Get out of here, you two!
He points at one of the doors.
That will take you back to the Department of Mysteries.
Sirius makes to go back to the fight. Harry grabs his wand.
Come with us.
Sirius shakes his head.
You're the important one now, Harry. I have to help the Order.
Slowly, Harry lets go of Sirius's robe sleeve. He looks into his godfather's eyes.
I'll always be here for you, Harry. Now go!
He pushes Harry away from him towards the door. A spell rockets past Sirius's head. Bellatrix leaps down in front of Sirius. She smiles. Sirius grins.
Hello, cousin.
He fires a spell at her. She dodges, leaping down to the dice on which the veil sits. Sirius leaps after. The wands clash, blinding lights exploding from the tips. Harry and Neville climb towards the door.
Potter!
They whirl around to find Lucius only feet away, holding his wand out at them.
We may have lost the prophecy, but I can still deliver you to the Dark Lord.
He waves his wand.
Stupefy!
Harry raises his own.
Pretengo.
Malfoy's spell bounces away from Harry. The door opens and Dumbledore, eyes blazing, enters, his wand at the ready.
It's Dumbledore.
Malfoy attempts to run, but Dumbledore snaps his wand out, and Malfoy is knocked over and dragged back. Dumbledore moves past Harry and Neville, descending into what appears to be a war zone. He reaches the fight before the Death Eaters even know he's there. Dumbledore blasts two of them across the room before the rest notice. They break for the exits, but members of the Order are already there, stunning them. Bellatrix fires a stunning spell. Sirius ducks under it, laughing.
Is that the best you've got, cousin?
He doesn't even see it coming. He's barely finished his sentence when the second spell strikes him in the chest. He's lifted up into the air, a look of shock upon his face. Time seems to slow for Harry as he watches Sirius's descent. And then Sirius falls into the veil, his body simply falling behind it. He does not reappear on the other side. Harry sprints for his godfather, but he seems to move in slow motion.
Sirius!
He leaps down towards the veil, abandoning everything. Tears are streaming down his face. His wand drifts from his grasp and clatters behind him. He leaps to the lowest level and charges up the dais. Lupin reaches out and grabs him, holding him fast.
Let me go!
He hits at Lupin, trying to break away from him.
Harry, he's gone. There's nothing you can do.
Harry hits him across the face, still struggling wildly.
Liar.
Things seem to slow down. All sound dies away for Harry. Spells flash and explode all around, bathing the room in strange colors, mixing with the light of the blue candles. But Harry's legs simply give out and he slumps against Lupin, who is also weeping. Harry clenches and unclenches his fists in agony, beating them weakly against Lupin's chest.
No.
Lupin bodily picks Harry up, still weeping, and carries him away from the dais. He lets go of Harry and turns to help Neville. Harry stands dumbfounded beside him, still staring at the veil. Kingsley leaps up to duel with Bellatrix, but she blasts him aside. Dumbledore turns and attempts to stop her, but she deflects the spell and leaps towards the door. Harry watches her and there's cold fury in his eyes. Harry sprints after her. Lupin turns to see him leaping up after Bellatrix.
Harry, no!
He flies through the door after her. Interior room of doors, night. Harry enters just to see Bellatrix escape through a doorway. He charges after her. Harry sprints down the steps leading out to the golden fountain and the telephone lift. Bellatrix is nearly to it.
You can't stop me, Potter.
I'll kill you.
He brandishes his wand.
Stupefy.
Bellatrix turns and deflects it. She fires back to him. Harry dives behind the fountain. There is silence. Then the slow footfalls of Bellatrix.
Come on out, Potter.
Harry grows more angry by the second.
Well, have you come to avenge your dear godfather?
Harry gets out behind the fountain.
Crucio.
He hits her squarely in the chest. She shrieks in pain and falls to the ground, but she rolls away from him to her feet almost immediately.
Crucio.
Harry leaps behind the statue of the centaur. Bellatrix's spell blasts the centaur's head off. It clangs away into the darkness.
Never used an unforgivable curse before, have you, Potter? You have to mean it. You have to want it to cause pain in your very soul.
She tries to outflank him, but he moves behind another statue.
Give me the prophecy.
Can't, it got smashed by the accident.
Why?
Harry laughs.
How's Voldemort going to like that? You failed him and he's very forgiving, is he?
Bellatrix lets out a shriek of horror.
Forgive me, Master, I tried,
Harry laughs again.
He can't hear you from here, you know.
Can't I, Potter?
Voldemort has appeared in the middle of the hall, his wand pointed at Harry.
So, you smashed my prophecy.
Harry doesn't move, frozen into stillness by the horror. Voldemort sneers.
I grow tired of you continually thwarting my plans, Harry Potter.
He snaps his wand down.
Avada Kedavra!
Green light explodes from his wand. Harry flinches, but the statue of the Golden Wizard leaps down from the fountain and takes the blast full in the chest. It explodes in 1,000 shards of molten metal. Voldemort whirls. Dumbledore stands at the doorway, looking ferocious, his blue eyes blazing. You should not have come here tonight, Tom.
It is you who have made the mistake, Dumbledore.
He slashes with his wand.
Avada Kedavra!
Dumbledore vanishes with a swirl of his cloak and reappears between Voldemort and Bellatrix. She tries to run, but Dumbledore knocks her to the ground with a stunning spell, vanishing again just as another killing curse strikes the wall and explodes, shaking the hall. He reappears close to Dumbledore. Voldemort. Dumbledore raises his wand and strikes. A blinding light issues forth from it, the power of it staggering. Voldemort conjures a glowing, translucent shield around himself. Dumbledore's spell collides with it, filling the room completely with blinding light. The whole room shakes. Harry staggers to the ground. Bits of dust and rock fall from the walls. The light fades and Voldemort is unharmed.
You do not seek to kill me, Dumbledore?
There are other ways to destroy a man, Tom.
There is nothing worse than death.
You are quite wrong, Tom. As you have always been. Voldemort fires another killing curse at Dumbledore. Fawkes the Phoenix swoops down from above and swallows the jet of green light, exploding into flames and falling to the earth. Dumbledore spins, sending a constant flow of blinding light blasting from his wand, the sheer power of it shaking the hall. Voldemort raises his own wand and the light separates around him. Dumbledore and Voldemort are surrounded by the flow of light. Dumbledore grits his teeth as a high wind billows his cloak around him. Voldemort glares at Dumbledore, eyes blood red. His wand trembles in his hand, and Voldemort is slowly being forced backward by the power of the stream of light. Fear
No way.
eyes. He lets out a roar of frustration. A ring of green flame surrounds him, and he vanishes in a tongue of red-orange fire. Dumbledore's stream of light blasts into the wall and punches a huge gaping hole in the wall, shaking the whole ministry. Harry is lifted bodily into the air and tossed into the wall from the explosion. There is a sharp crack of rock breaking, and half of the ceiling falls in. Dumbledore whips around his wand, and Harry is pulled from under the falling rocks. Voldemort reappears on the plinth where the statues had been.
Look out!
He raises his wand, shouting a spell. The water in the pool below the statues instantly flow upward to surround Voldemort in a globe of water. Voldemort vanishes from within the globe of water, and it crashes back down to the pool, spilling onto the floor.
Professor.
He stands up. Stay where you are, Harry. Dumbledore sounds frightened. Then Harry screams. His scar simply splits open and blood spurts from it. He shrieks in agony, the pain unbearable. Harry speaks, but it is not his voice.
Kill me now, Dumbledore. Do it, if death means nothing.
Green flames explode from all of the fireplaces around them, and people appear as they apparate. Cornelius Fudge arrives too. Voldemort shrieks in pain, and he appears across the room. Snatches up the unconscious body of Bellatrix and disapparates in a blast of green fire. Harry slumps to the ground. His eyes are closed, his face peaceful. Blood flows from his scar across his face to the ground. Harry! He runs to Harry's side and touches his skin. He closes his eyes and whispers a spell. Harry's eyes snap open. Oh, you're all right, Harry. Harry nods, dazed.
Minister, I saw him. You know who? He was right there.
Fudge is standing in the middle of the room, a dazed look also on his face.
I know. I saw him too.
Dumbledore stands. Half the room gasps and draws back. Fudge seems to notice him for the first time. If you and your men will proceed to the death room, you will find several Death Eaters, which I and some others have apprehended. Fudge points at Dumbledore.
Seize him!
Dumbledore stands to his full height, his eyes blazing with anger. Minister, you have just seen you-know-who in the flesh only seconds ago. It is time to come to your senses. Fudge looks cowed. If you insist on trying to arrest me, I am perfectly willing to demonstrate how useless such an attempt will be. No one looks remotely interested in trying to arrest Dumbledore.
Dumbledore, what the blazes happened here?
Dumbledore smiles and walks back over to Harry, lifting him to his feet. I will explain everything, Minister, just as soon as I return Harry to school. Fudge and half the crowd turns to see Harry for the first time.
What's he doing here? And what's happened to him?
Dumbledore taps his wand against Harry's scar and the bleeding stops. He turns to the Minister of Magic. Minister, you will order the removal of Dolores Umbridge from my school. Also, she will probably need medical attention, having had a violent encounter with some centaurs earlier this evening. All educational decrees will be nullified, and you will call off the search on Hagrid so he can return to work. Fudge is sputteringly incomprehensible. I will return here later tonight after I have seen to Harry. It should not take long. He taps the golden centaur head. Portus. He motions Harry over.
Dumbledore, I want some answers.
The Second War has begun, Minister. Harry takes the head with Dumbledore and they vanish from the ministry. Magic is off. Yes, I thought he could overcome his feelings towards your father, but I was wrong. Some wounds cut too deep to be healed.
He barely taught me, though. I always felt more open to it after the lessons, like he was trying to open me to Voldemort.
I would trust Severus Snape with my life, Harry. You have never recovered from your mistrust of him in your first year.
Sirius didn't trust him. Didn't believe he'd really turn to our side.
Again, some wounds run too deep to be healed, Harry. Severus and Sirius never liked each other at school. This has never changed. Harry glares at the carpet. During your occlumency lessons, Professor Snape discovered that you were dreaming about the door in the Department of Mysteries.
I've been dreaming about that all year before Voldemort discovered the connection.
Yes. Voldemort has been obsessed with hearing that prophecy since he returned. Because of your scar, what he was obsessed with, you were obsessed with, in the form of dreams. Once he discovered the connection, Voldemort had little difficulty in manipulating you, thinking he had captured Sirius.
But I checked Grimmauld Place. Crutcher said...
Creature lied. He wanted you to go to the Department of Mysteries.
Why?
Creature has been serving two masters for some months now.
What?
It appears that when Sirius told him to get out, Creature thought he meant out of the house. So he went to the Black's closest relatives, the Malfoys. Obviously, they questioned him. Sirius had forbidden him from giving up important secrets. But Sirius neglected to mention his relationship with you. He told them how you saw him as a mixture of father and brother, and that you would move heaven and earth to save Sirius. Voldemort knew that making you believe he had Sirius in the Department of Mysteries would force you there.
Wait. Where was Sirius when I tried to contact him?
Apparently, Creature had injured Buckbeak to distract him in case you tried to contact headquarters. Sirius was tending to the wounds when you called.
And Hermione said we should be nice to Crutcher.
She was quite right, Harry. Creature is what wizards have made him. He is to be pitied, not hated.
Sirius hated him.
He didn't hate Creature himself. Creature was a reminder to Sirius of the home he had always hated.
Yeah, he really hated that place, and you kept him locked up in there.
I was trying to save his life. Dumbledore buries his head in his hands. Harry is dumbfounded. The headmaster looks up finally. It is time to tell you what I should have 5 years ago. No doubt you have wondered why it was that I sent you there and not to a wizarding family. I did it for your protection. You were in more danger than anyone realized. Voldemort was defeated, but his servants were everywhere. Harry is silent. I also knew that Voldemort would return one day. I played to his weakness. There is an ancient magic which Voldemort has underestimated. This magic is what your mother gave you when she died. That protection would only work, however, if you were cared for by a blood relative, your Aunt Petunia.
She never loved me.
Perhaps not, but she took you in, however, grudgingly. As long as you can call your aunt's house your home, you are protected. Harry looks away. And now we come to the moment of terrible truth. The moment I have dreaded for 15 years. The moment when I must lay another burden atop your already straining shoulders. Harry stares into his blue eyes. Do you remember your first year here when you lay in the hospital wing fresh from your confrontation with Voldemort? Harry nods. Do you remember what you asked me that night?
I asked you why Voldemort tried to kill me.
Yes. I decided not to tell you then. After all, 11 was too young for such burdens. The same went for 12, but I was running out of excuses by 13 and 14. Do you see the flaw in my plan yet? Harry shakes his head. I cared about you too much. I became more concerned with your happiness and well-being than with the truth and the lives it could save. That was my greatest mistake. It was exactly what Voldemort expects from us fools who love. But I could not bear to tell you. I have watched you pass through greater trials than any other student in the history of the school, and I could not bear to add another one, the greatest one of all. He looks at Harry, sympathy and regret etched on his face. You have no idea the pain it causes me to tell it to you even now. But unfortunately, I must.
I don't understand, Professor.
Dumbledore sighs again. The reason Voldemort tried to kill you is because of a prophecy made just before your birth. By attempting to kill you, he believed he was fulfilling the terms of the prophecy. Voldemort's mistake was that he had not heard the entire prophecy. That is the weapon we have been guarding, and which he has been so desperately seeking, the knowledge of how to destroy you. Harry sighs this time. He looks at the floor.
Professor, why am I so important to him?
Harry hangs his head. An excellent question, Harry. The answer lies in the prophecy.
Sir, it got smashed.
That was not the only place the prophecy is preserved. Dumbledore raises his wand to his temple and extracts a memory, placing it in the pensieve. He waves his wand over it. The ghostly image of Professor Trelawney rises from the bowl.
The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, born to those who have thrice defeated him, born as the 7th month dies, and the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal, but he will have power that the Dark Lord knows not, and either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord will be born as the 7th month dies.
The image of Trelawney fades. Harry looks staggered.
I'm not sure I understand all that, sir.
Means that the only person with a chance of defeating Voldemort was born at the end of July to parents who had resisted him 3 times before.
And it means me.
Interestingly, there were 2 boys whom the prophecy could have been referring to. You and Neville Longbottom.
So it's not necessarily me, sir.
You forget the next qualification of the prophecy. The Dark Lord will mark this boy as his equal. In giving you that scar, Voldemort did so. I'm afraid that the prophecy is most certainly referring to you.
What if he chose wrong?
He chose the child he believed to be the more dangerous. He chose the half-blood wizard because he saw some of himself in you. He tried to kill you and instead gave you the power and the future to destroy him.
Why didn't he wait? Why attack when we were babies?
Voldemort had an informant listening to my meeting with Professor Trelawney. Fortunately, he was discovered before he could hear the entire prophecy. Voldemort had to act immediately. He didn't know the rest of the prophecy. All he knew was that he had to destroy the child who would grow to be a threat to his power.
But I don't have any special powers.
Dumbledore was silent for a moment. There is a room in the Department of Mysteries which is kept locked at all times. It contains a force so wonderful and yet terrible that it is greater than death itself. It is that power which you have incredible amounts of, and of which Voldemort has none.
What is it, sir?
This power drove you to save Sirius tonight. It kept Voldemort from possessing you. He cannot bear to touch it. In the end, it was your heart and not your head that saved you. Harry looks away. That is only the end of the prophecy which we haven't addressed. It states, neither can live while the other survives. Harry looks up at Dumbledore. It is the final burden which I must place on you, Harry.
One of us has to kill the other in the end.
Dumbledore nods, and there are tears misting his eyes. Yes. They sit quietly together. Dumbledore softly wipes a tear from his cheek. Exterior, Great Lake, day. Harry sits by himself on a boulder by the side of the lake. He watches the sunset.
Hello, Harry.
Hey,
Harry
Nick.
plans to see nearly headless Nick, a ghost, standing beside him.
Hey, Nick.
Nick looks uncomfortable.
Madame Pomfrey asked me to tell you that Hermione and Ron are out at the hospital wing.
Oh, thanks.
He stands and they begin to walk back to the castle together.
Nick, I was wondering about something.
Nick looks even more uncomfortable now.
I've been expecting this.
Expecting what?
A lot of people come to me when they've lost loved ones.
I expect so.
There's a silence.
He's not coming back, Harry.
There's another silence.
Few wizards choose the path I have chosen.
Why?
I am neither here nor there, Harry. Trapped between two worlds, that does not appeal to most. I know nothing at the secrets of death, Harry. I was afraid of it. I prefer to survive as a feeble imitation of life than face a vast unknown. I often wonder if that was a wise decision.
They approach the great doors leading to the entry hall. Nick looks at Harry.
I'm sorry I couldn't be of more help, Harry. Truly, I am.
Nick vanishes through the wall into the castle. Harry steps through the doors into the entry hall. Interior entry hall day. Harry enters.
Harry!
He turns to see Hermione and Ron racing down the steps towards him. Hermione throws herself into Harry's arms in a huge bear hug.
How are you?
Good as new, mate.
Hermione pulls herself away from Harry and looks at him closely.
How are you doing, Harry?
Harry pauses for a long moment, thinking.
Better.
Come on, let's go into the feast.
Harry shakes his head.
You two go on. I want to be alone for a while.
Hermione nods. They turn away and begin to walk into the great hall.
I've got something to tell you, something important.
They stop and look at him again.
But not right now. I'm not ready.
Take your time, Harry. We'll be here when you are.
She smiles at him. Ron and Hermione disappear into the great hall. Luna comes down the stairs carrying a stack of papers. She goes up to the notice board and attaches one of the papers to it. She turns and sees Harry.
Hello, Harry.
He walks up to her.
It's the last night and I need to pack.
Then why are you putting up signs?
Oh, people take my things and hide them. I don't think they like me much. Some of them call me Loony Lovegood.
Harry looks at her in pity.
Do you need any help looking?
Oh no, it all turns up in the end.
She looks at him serenely.
Sirius Black. Hermione said he was your godfather.
Yeah. Have you ever... You know.
My mother. I was 9.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's not like I'll never see her again.
Isn't it?
Don't tell me you didn't hear them. The voices beyond the veil.
Harry looks startled.
They were just out of sight. That's all.
You mean we'll see them again?
Of course. Things always work out in the end.
She smiles at him. Then she heads back up the stairs and into the feast. Harry is left alone in the entry hall. He turns and looks into the glorious sunset. For the first time in a long time, Harry smiles too. Fade out.
Woo!
What a long script.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
guys, thank you for joining us for this epic reading of Harry Potter: The Order of the Phoenix. We'll see some of you next week. Take care.